Right. It is 7:10 p.m. We have returned from executive session. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, this time we'll have a moment of silence. All right, thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve action items as discussed in closed session.
So moved.
Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Westrom, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we've got some special recognition.
Indeed we
Got
do.
lots of people here tonight.
Do you want to start with Dr. Bitter? He's first.
Yeah. All right, our first special recognition. And Dr. Bitters asked for time to address the board, so we'll give him that latitude at the end of this. Okay, Dr. Wright? I mean, Dr. Bitter.
I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the accomplishments during Dr. Bitter's 9 years on the board, and then each of the board members will have an opportunity to speak about what has been accomplished during this 9 years. And then I know Dr. Bitter wants to talk to the board. Okay, if you look, this picture is important to me because it was on my 25,000 pictures on my phone. So it's from my personal archives. But if you look up here on the lower right, you're going to see Dr. John Bitter in April of 2014. And in that time period, there were two candidate forums. There was a small candidate forum where our school board trustees were invited to go and speak briefly at the town council meeting. And then there was another candidate forum for just school board. So that is Dr. John Bitter on the lower right there, speaking at Town Hall in April of 2014, 9 years ago. And then you've got some other things up here too. You've got a Lone Star Cup, and then you've got a graduation group too. So Dr. Bitter has always been extremely thoughtful about his decisions. Dr. Bitter has never been a person to just make a hasty decision and go ahead and decide to do something. His decisions are always extremely methodical, extremely well thought out. He's very respectful, very gracious, and we have appreciated that in the 9 years that he's been on the board. The 2014 bond passed the same time he got elected, but he was on the board to call the 2017 bond that you, the voters, passed, and he was on the board to call the 2022 bond that you, the community, also passed. So he's been part of the implementation of the 2014 bond, but he's been totally and completely part of the calling of the 2017 and the 2022 bonds. He's been part of the district while students within the district won multiple state championships in UIL academics, band, athletics. Every year that he's been on the board, there's been a Lone Star Cup championship. In 2020, there's a little exception to that because they didn't award one during the pandemic, but Argyle High School was ahead. Phase 1 opened in 2016 at Canyon Falls, built with money from the 2014 bond. Dr. Bitter was part of that. In 2018, 12 classrooms were added at 377. In 2019, West opened in the Harvest area. In 2022, South opened, and in 2021, the legendary flip that we talked about so much in 2016, how in 5 years we're going to flip the high school and the middle school. In 2021, Camden Falls became the high school and 377 became the middle school. So he's been part of all of that. Part of A's on state accountability, part of Argyle AISD getting the highest score in Denton County. And he navigated the mask situation and having face-to-face and virtual instruction in 2020 in a very positive and reassuring way to the community. He hasn't had to preside as vice president too many times because our presidents have come and presided, but I do remember one time that we knew ahead of time that the president wasn't going to be available and Dr. Bitter was going to preside, and in the true spirit of thoughtfulness and preparation that he's always exhibited, he made an appointment and he came up and he and I went over everything on that agenda before that meeting, so that he was completely prepared always. Anytime he ever presided, he always took that very, very seriously. He's always focused on academics. He's always looking for how to get the best teacher in front of the student, always. So there won't be any replacing Dr. John Bitter on this school board. Dr. John Bitter has made a monumental contribution to this school board in the last 9 years, and we're very grateful to him for that. And the people who are up here, the board members are going to speak about him, but I do want to go ahead and present his plaque to him. So, Dr. Bitter. Who's speaking first?
All right, if anyone wants to just go in roll order, we can do that. If anyone wants to speak,
All good.
Go ahead.
It's all
it's
right.
definitely not roll order.
Oh, is that what you said? I thought you said just roll it. Sorry.
It's all right.
He
Sorry.
thought you were ready to go. Yeah, nobody.
Wow. So we've been doing this for a long time. We've had a lot of different discussions. We've been part of a lot of things. We've had a lot of laughs doing this. We've had a lot of serious moments. But I think Dr. Wright said it best. You're always well prepared. You're always well thought and well versed on the things that you choose to support or not support. This district is a better place as a result of you being on the board. I went back today and asked Mr. Herron, wherever he is over there, when we started in 2014, we had 1,900 kids. We've increased 3,100 kids since you and I have been on the board. So I think we did some good things. I think you were a huge part of a lot of things. So I could go on all night. So I appreciate all you've done. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your support and commitment to this community and these kids. The commitment to the kids that weren't even here then, right? And now they're here. So I just appreciate you more than you'll know. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Go down.
Dr. Bitter, I was going to say that you're like the big picture guy that puts it all together. I mean, you listen well, you're very thoughtful in the things that come out of your mouth. So, and the humor too. The humor's been good. But you are very thoughtful, as they've said. You've got a lot of good wisdom, good insight, even as measured not long ago. I love that you always speak your mind. You're pretty frank about things, and you speak your truth, which I really value and appreciate as a fellow board member. You're always wanting the things that are best for our kids, the students, the staff, everybody, the parents, everybody in this room actually. And I've really enjoyed working with you. I've learned a lot from you. And I do want to wish you well. I'm going to miss you greatly. Next time we have a meeting, I'm going to want you in there. So, and you won't be, but I do value all your teachings, your wisdom, all that I've learned and all you've done for our district. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McDade. Thank you.
I'll go next. I literally on my notes, I said invaluable, I said irreplaceable, I said thoughtful, and I said good listener. I mean, we didn't coordinate on these things. I mean, these are just things that we all wrote down when we think about Dr. Bitter. We also think about leadership. I mean, he has a leadership quality that's going to be hard to replace. He contributes, and Dr. Bitter's contributed to this community in more ways than just serving on the school board. He's a small business owner. He's run a great business here, but he also he volunteers his time, his resources, and you've contributed in ways that long before I got here and ever since I've been here, in ways that's made this an attractive place to raise my family. And I know I'll say this one thing. I mean, I know you're proud of what you've done on this school board, but I know you're proud of what you've done as a father. And I know your kids, and I know your family, and I know that's what you hold highest. And for that, you should be congratulated as well, because your kids are wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Speaking of his fathership, that's how I got to know Dr. Bitter. Right, basically within the first month after we moved here, my son and his son became friends. Lucas immediately welcomed Grant. And so I got to become friends with you, Monica, and the rest of the family, and I so appreciated getting to know you and our friendship. And he basically encouraged me to be part of the board because I was probably asking him too many questions, and I realized, oh, you're on the board. And he said, Rich, why don't you just go ahead and run if you have all the answers. Anyway, I did, and now I respect you even more as being your peer for the last 6 years, or 5 years, I guess. And we're gonna miss you, and I'm happy for you. You've served Argyle well, and what I'll especially miss is he's wise beyond his years. He's kind of our elder statesman. He can wrap up an hour-long discussion with one sentence that always starts with, so what you're saying is, we appreciate the focus you've given us. Thank you.
Thank you, Richie.
I'll go next. Let Sam finish up. I've known Dr. Bitter a long time. We've been friends for a long time. I've only had the pleasure of serving on the board with you for almost a year now. To Reggie's point, there's a lot of admiration there in the way you handle yourself, the way you look at the issues facing the district. I always knew you were a great guy, but there's a newfound respect for the leadership that you've led with, at least in the last year that I've seen personally, and that I understand to be true before then. So we're going to miss you. I'm certainly, absolutely going to miss you, over the next 2 years. But I do think that you've definitely left your mark, and I hope that we can try to carry on some of the things that you brought to the table. So we're going to miss you.
Thank you, man. Thank
Oh, Dr. Bitter. My first year on the board, I got told ad nauseum, like, you're filling someone's seat that's been here almost 2 decades, and you're filling someone's seat that's irreplaceable. And so that was a little intimidating. And then I got into a boardroom with you, and it's intimidating to be a new board member sitting next to someone who's so wise, intelligent, thoughtful, and truly has an overall passion for this district being as best it can be. You are a model for any board member to look up to and to follow. The only times that you've been late to a meeting is because you were either coming out of surgery or I told you the wrong time to be here. But truly, every word that's been said up here is genuine, and we're going to miss you. You are irreplaceable, but I can guarantee you that the spirit of your wisdom will run through all of our thought processes, and so that will continue after you step down from the board. So again, like all my other fellow board members up here, I could go on all night about Dr. Bitter's stories, but you truly made being on this board more valuable for me. And I know as board president in the last 5 years, you've truly helped me have a sounding board, be able to talk through things, and be able to keep our focus on what the mission of this district is. So enjoy your free time now from all of your board responsibilities. Monica may not want you at home this much, but she'll adjust. So, but again, grateful for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
And Dr. Stieber wants to say something before
Yeah,
you
Dr.
go on.
Stieber has a special memory. And while she's getting ready to share her special memory, I do want to say thank you for being a wonderful vet for Kiro.
Very welcome.
I just had a funny, I don't know if this is on, I just had a funny Dr. Bitter. So to kind of to tag on to what Dr. Wright said, he is a wonderful vet, treats our animals too. But my first interaction with Dr. Bitter was the board meeting that I was hired. And so at that time I did not understand or know his sense of humor. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but when they voted, Dr. Bitter said, "When can we expect you to get those logos off of your car?" So the district I was coming from, I had just, some logos or whatever. When can we expect you to get those off? And so the board meeting went a little longer than I had anticipated. When I got home, I made my husband get up out of bed, go take it all off my car. And he did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I later learned that he has quite a sense of humor. But
He was joking.
There's
but
some
was
truth in the
Yeah.
humor.
Or was he?
So, anyway. All right. All right.
Oh, goodness.
Should we settle in?
Settle in.
I apologize. You guys came for a whole different reason. And I won't take more than a few minutes. And I wouldn't do this if it hadn't been for 9 years. And before usually when I speak, I like to speak without notes. I just speak my mind. But I want to make sure I get this right. And before I read just a few minutes worth of prepared notes, I want to say to the public that in 9 years, in many school board members, fellow members, maybe one of the things that's not in here that I am most proud of is that I felt like I've served with a bunch of individuals that came to the board without an agenda. And if I could say anything to any future candidates, please come to the school board for the greater good of the district, because you're responsible for making decisions on so many different issues. And if you come with some blinded emotion about one single issue, you will never be the school board member that you need to be. And I can say in 9 years and all the different members that I have, including everybody up here tonight, that is a true sentence. And it's very valuable. What I've learned over 9 years, in short, a lot. I've tried to add value and a reasoned perspective when I could, but I'm certain I've learned more than I've taught. I've received more than I've given. Like almost all of you, over the last 9 years, I've been asked so many times, what makes Argyle ISD so successful? My answer in a word, dedication. Examples abound throughout the district, but a few poignant examples would be clearly our own Dr. Wright, who has spent hours upon hours attending and supporting district activities well beyond the normal work hours, weekends, and evenings. I remember specifically watching Coach Perkins one Friday night coaching a basketball game till 10 o'clock after teaching all day, and the next morning at 6:30 Saturday morning, sitting in the bus waiting to take another group of kids to a UIL Scholastic competition. And I don't know if he's here, but what about our current high school principal, who's had more titles than Mike Tyson? This district has known him as Coach King, AP King, Mr. P King. He has given a lifetime of dedication to the education and development of generations of kids in this district. I've witnessed parents give countless hours coaching kids in all sorts of activities. The parental involvement and dedication in this district is undeniably part of our secret sauce. Collectively as a district, we have been a community committed to excellence and dedicated to the success of our collective children. Success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out. Dr. Wright recently asked me what I'm most proud of over my 9 years on the board. I thought I'd get back to her. I'm proud of how this district navigated the pandemic, starting with and under the leadership of Greg Royer, who's also not here this evening, the vision of the district to have one-to-one computer policy, which prepared us to almost seamlessly move to virtual learning. I'm equally proud of how quickly, before most, we had the courage to bring back in-person learning, where we knew the classroom was the best place for our children. I'm proud of the proactive efforts that began just prior to me joining the board in securing our schools. Over the past 9 years, we have taken significant steps to secure our campuses, and while we understand we can never take our guard down, we have taken decisive actions towards the safety of our staff and students. I'm proud of the boards I've served with focusing on academic excellence and constantly looking for ways to measure and implement strategies that will improve our academic outcomes. I'm proud that after thoughtful deliberation and sometimes hours of discussion, we've been able to move forward with a unified voice, making decisions that collectively we deem will support and improve the district. Finally, I'm proud to have the privilege to work with Dr. Wright and her administration, who has guided us well and who is a significant part of the success of this district. If ever there was a young superintendent out there wondering what it looks like to be tirelessly dedicated to their district, they need to look no further than the example Dr. Wright has displayed at Argyle ISD. Preparing people for democratic citizenship was a major reason for the creation of public schools. The Founding Fathers maintained that the success of the fragile American democracy would depend on the competency of its citizens. The value of a strong education cannot be overstated. Other than a good puppy dog, learning is the only treasure that will follow its owner wherever it goes. The growth of this district is requiring forward thinking and planning to ensure that 10 years from now, people are still asking, what makes Argyle so successful? It's truly worth the time to understand and repeat the core tenets that have allowed us to excel. Dedication, involvement, emphasis on academics, safety, character development, small, intimate classrooms, supportive technology, strong, competent teachers, and even stronger leadership. It's mandatory to not confuse outcomes such as sense of community, championships, school pride, with the true foundational principles mentioned above when deciding how to ensure our future success in a changing landscape. To do so would jeopardize the very outcome we are seeking. It would be like expecting your favorite cake to be baked using far different ingredients than the original recipe. With the winds of change blowing through this district, never has strong, thoughtful, visionary leadership been needed more than now. I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. I am telling you it's going to be worth it. I deeply appreciate each and every one of you in this room this evening and feel truly honored to have served alongside you. I'm optimistic on the future of this district, and I am grateful for all that I have learned. Thank you.
Rick wants a photo.
Huh?
Rick wants a photo.
Dr. Bitter, can we do a photo?
Sure, sure.
Get your plaque. I'll hold the gavel.
So we have a special choral performance from Argyle South Elementary Choir we're so excited about, with Neil Kopensky as the director. So welcome Argyle South Choir. This choir seems to have grown. Is this the same choir that sang at the ribbon cutting?
Yes, the same choir. Been working all year, and they've been singing so well. I've been so proud of all the work they've been doing this year.
Don't we have more now than we had then?
It's a growing district, so we just keep growing.
It's a nice size group.
So we wanted to give y'all a special gift, which is one of our favorite songs, and it's quickly becoming a Songbirds classic, which is Deep in the Heart of Texas. So please feel free to clap along if you know the part, and enjoy.
The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. The prairie sky is wide and high, deep in the heart of Texas. The sage in bloom is like perfume, deep in the heart of Texas. Reminds me of the one I love, deep in the heart.
Thank y'all so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Argyle South. You've done a tremendous job this year getting your school kicked off. Thank you, Mr. Kropinski. Okay. A great deal of work has gone in this year with the elementary curriculum writers, and so we're going to be honoring these tonight. And Lindsay Carrier and Kelly Dillman, our curriculum specialists, are going to be telling you about what has gone on in LAR and math this year. So welcome Lindsay Carrier and Kelly Dillman.
Good evening. So as we were thinking about our curriculum, we wanted to make sure that our mission and vision were evident. And our mission and vision for curriculum is to make sure that we're building a strong alignment across campuses. We also want to make sure that we are providing like educational experiences for every student in Argyle ISD. So our hope is that our curriculum will reflect the expectations of our community and the state standards.
So just to tell you a little bit about our process, back in early September, we reached out and we sent an application out asking for teachers who might be interested in helping with the process, and we had an amazing response. We have a really exceptional group of teachers who volunteered and who have really stuck with the process, and I believe hopefully if we haven't scarred them too much, we'll continue with the process next year. But they have done really excellent work, and I just want to say that this is in addition to their normal daily duties. So we are just so proud, and when I heard Dr. Bitter speak, he talked about excellence, and this is just another example of a group who has exhibited great excellence in the work that they've done, often working through lunch, really and truly getting here early in the morning and working for the entire day without hardly any breaks. Sometimes we have to tell them to take a break. So I think the work that they're doing is going to really benefit this district, and we are just so proud of them. So if we could have them stand up, and let's give them a round of applause. We would actually love it, if possible, if we could get a picture with the board, if y'all don't mind. So if y'all will come on up to the front, we're going to get a picture.
Next, we're going to be honoring our archery state champions and qualifiers. You want to come on in and bring the archery group in. You want all the board up there, or? Yeah, I will. With the certificate. Yes.
Sure. Where are you starting? You want to start young? If it's, that's okay. We can roll with it. And so you have. Is it Ella Stoops? Okay. So yeah. Yep. So okay, yeah, we will probably circle back on a couple of things here, but the way the order is going, that's fine. I definitely want to recognize a lot of these folks. And where is Scott? Oh. Stop hiding on me.
I'll go last. Let me go last with the scholarships.
Well, that's from you as well. Or you want to do it? Okay, very good, very good. To Ella Stoops, our high school 3D state champion for girls. Ella has just been. You want to talk about professionalism, dedication, And then Riley Wintermute. Another one who has worked tirelessly, and our one of our senior leaders here has netted a second place for the state 3D high school girls. Congratulations.
There's a certificate to Raleigh for the second place in the state tournament for the 3D team. Congratulations.
And a familiar face, Julia Conway. You remember Julia from last year running first place in 3D. This year, third place, but still a sizable challenge given the competition up there. First, second, and third are all phenomenal. Still be proud of that third place, just as much. And I encouraged this girl to start shooting. My next door neighbor. Second place, Macy Shelton. For second place, middle school female 3D challenge. This is your second year shooting, and then landed at second place at middle school girls. I know where you want to go back to the one that you just skipped.
There's a high school.
Right, that place, so I know this person. Charlie Harbison placed 7th in the top 10, and why the top 10 is being recognized here because they individually qualify for nationals when you shoot at the top 10. And Charlie was 8th grade state champion. So now back to middle school. We'll finish up, and this is 4th place for female 3D challenge, and is Morgan Washer. Did Morgan not come in tonight? Cool. Congratulations. Gotta be here to win. And then this is another girl who shoots lights out here. And this would be on your list here. Yes, it is on your list as well. Lauren Thurston, 5th place middle school female 3D. And I have to say that all these 3D, if you're not familiar, the bullseye is the round target that just has the rings, the rings. The 3D, that the boards we've get out so far, the foam animals, so you have the targets on them, and much more difficult. This is your accelerated archers in your first or second year? Or first year? First year. Not bad. Not bad. Oh. And then, so that was 3D, and you know what? I'm sorry? Brooklyn King. First, yeah, because your certificate. So Brooklyn, are you here? Yeah, there we are. Now, and Brooklyn, we kind of fell out of cycle, but Brooklyn took 3rd at nationals last year. Did you not? So great accomplishment there. We just didn't make it to a board meeting. Let's see. Then we go down to Bullseye. You're down to, who do you have? Austin Zenek, yes, he. This is Austin's second year student. We had him in camp 2 summers ago. You can really start. I'm serious, right? Yeah. But man, he said, "Coach, I got this." And here he is, knocked it out. State champ, 5th grade. The South, yep. So, and he'll be back up here shortly. Then you have George on next for 3rd place elementary females in Bullseye. Good. Yeager? Yeah. Third elementary school male in Bullseye, and he's got an older brother that he's been beating up on pretty good, so congratulations for that. I know that's worth something too. But third place male in Bullseye, congratulations. And then you have part of McCullough next? Yeah, for 8th grade elementary boys, again, individually qualifying for nationals. Come on up, part of. And then my next door neighbor on the other side decided to shoot too, and there's something in the water on our street. Quinn Markham placed 10th in the elementary school girls, also qualifying individually for nationals. And then back to, there was one girl who finished in the top 10 of the Bullseye as well as 3D, and that would be Lauren Thurston again for 5th place in Bullseye. All right, now that's all your certificates, and then so you have some. Sure.
I'm Scott McClure. I'm with the Outdoors Tomorrow Foundation, and we gave out $32,000 with Texas Parks and Wildlife to scholarships to students here in Texas. There were over 3,400 students competing in one tournament, and then the IBO tournament, the 3D target, over 1,000 additional students competed. And I know that you guys will be representing Argyle at Nationals. I can't wait to see you there. I'll be cheering you on. But some of those scholarships are here tonight, and I'm here to present some scholarships. So I need Riley to step forward, I need Ella to step forward, and I need Julia to step forward. So, Julia, you got 3rd place, is that correct? Julia, you got $500 scholarship. That is for you. Riley, you got 2nd place. Riley, you got $750 for your scholarship. And then Ella, you get $1,000. Congratulations. And then the Texas Youth Hunting Program wants to get kids involved in the outdoors. So state champions also receive a free hunt certificate. So Ella and Austin, step up here for just a second. Because y'all were state champions, if you would like to go on a turkey hunt or something, instead of shooting 3D foam targets, provide some real protein for your family. There's a certificate for you. Congratulations to y'all. Go ahead.
Oh, and this, for Bullseye side state champion, they win a bow, so no weapons in sport here. The Argyle South representatives up front. The Argyle South team took 2nd place at state as a team.
Yeah, let's go ahead. We can get the board.
Okay, sure. All right, and then middle school placed 2nd at the 3D challenge. So all these 3D archers that did real well. Come on, right here. Middle school right here. And then these high schools, we swept 1, 2, and 3, and they won 1st place in the state.
Everyone's getting towards the center.
You guys center, trophy in the middle. You guys switch that way. You guys switch it.
Do you want to get it? You can get it?
Here we go.
Hold on. Coming in. There we go.
All in here? Awesome, congratulations.
Hang tight, let all the families get a shot.
And I I'd just like to say, I'm David Wintermead, I'm the head 3D coach. Very, very proud of both the middle school and high school teams. Couldn't be more proud of them. They put so much initiative into this sport, so much dedication. You watch these kids grow up. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and to take home first and second place in the state is just incredible. I couldn't be more proud of these kids. I couldn't be more proud of these archers. They not only do individually, but they help one another out as well. And they boost each other every single day in practice. It's amazing to watch the growth of these kids grow up. And I've learned just as much from them as they've learned from me. And again, I couldn't be more proud. We are holding the last shoot next Saturday at our Argyle Archery Arena. So we invite anybody in the community to come, shoot at our last targets. It's going to be held in that arena. It's a fundraiser to boost up funds, to bring up the next generation of archers in the next arena that we're trying to locate. So we would appreciate any support that you can come and just share that with us as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, all my archers.
Very proud of our archery team. Thank you.
And we appreciate the support.
I understand. I will be there.
Your shirts look really sharp. Really nice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mrs. Church can explain.
Right, okay.
Somebody's phone.
Mrs. Turek or Mr. Turek? Mrs. Turek, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Getting back to fire code.
We want to welcome Mr. and Mrs. Turek to the mic. They are our middle school theater teachers. And the middle school performed Dearly Departed as their one-act play this year, and Mrs. Turek's going to be talking about the play and their success this year.
So thank you guys so much for having us. So in December, we cast the show. It was a very fast, about 4-week process that we put together. And these kids are magnificent. We worked pretty much every day for about 2 hours, minus the ice week, which was festive. And beyond that, also, we were very honored that this year we had a student teacher with us, Miss Emily C., and so she got to be a part of the process as well. She was an invaluable member. And one-act play is a unique process in the fact that the kids are taught there are lots of time constraints that are on them. So they have 7 minutes to set up an entire stage, 40 minutes to perform, and then 7 minutes to strike. And so they planned what to do in the event that we got very close to 40 minutes. They know how to troubleshoot because once the time starts on the show, we as directors are completely hands off. And so they run the whole thing. It's a beautiful thing. So there were a lot of individual awards that happened. So Parker Weathersby, one of our cast members, won Best Performer. And we also, so yes, he just, also Christopher Holtman and Sarah Liverman received All-Star Cast Awards. Miss Emmy Nishida and Peyton Harris were honorable mention All-Star Cast members. Eliana Salcedo was our outstanding technician. And our crew also won for the competition overall best tech crew for the day, which was amazing. So we are also very, very fortunate that throughout the competition, we had some wonderful schools come and participate. It was just a great day of theater, but we were very, very blessed that our cast took first place that day. And so we were just very honored, and it was a joy. So the rest of our kiddos that are here, we have Chloe Matuyu, and we have Mr. Eli Roskilly, Kaylee King. I love this. We have Lily Boyle, Kobe Clark, Avery Avery West, Brooklyn Bissett, and then my husband, Mr. Turek, right in there, and then Emily C. And we have a lot of kids that are also multitasking tonight that were in other places. And so it's been such an honor and a privilege, and thank you for having us here tonight. You guys, we appreciate it.
Congratulations. Thank you. And Lily Boyle. Kobe Clark. Congratulations. Kaylee King. Oh, sorry. Tracy Holloway.
She couldn't be here this evening.
Okay. Luke Huron.
Luke could also not be here.
Brooklyn Bissett. Congratulations. Eli Kelly.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Martin Kempton.
Morgan could be here.
Chloe.
Between her.
Congratulations, Chloe. Lacey Dustin.
That's it for the kids to be here. Stack and pack, layer. Thank you. Yes, know how to layer.
Laura.
And now we have our Argyle High School boys and girls powerlifting. Who's the spokesperson for powerlifting? Coach here. Is here.
Not Mr. Westrom.
Mess with these kids.
Huh?
Don't want to mess with these kids.
Yeah.
So good evening. Is this on?
You're good.
So good evening. I've got the boys and girls powerlifting team from Argyle High School. We're going to start with the boys. We have senior Cross Elizardo. He finished 6th in region, and we just learned last week he was named first team academic All-State. We have junior Thor Johansson, 2-time regional qualifier. Sophomore Hunter Bartram, he finished ranked 8th in his division, regional qualifier. We have sophomore Raymond Martinich, regional qualifier, finished ranked 13th in his division. We have freshman Chanson Bowen, regional qualifier, finished ranked 10th in his division. And then we had sophomore Aaron Gomez. He was a state qualifier this year and finished 10th in state in his division. And now for our girls, we had sophomore Kayla Rose. She was a state qualifier, finished 10th. We had junior Cassidy Owen. She is a 2-time state qualifier this year. She finished 13th. And we had junior Tessa Knight. She's a regional qualifier this year. She finished 8th in the region. And then finally, we had junior Rebecca Borg. She was a state champion in her division. This is the second time in our school's history we have a state champion.
Hold on one more time. You good? One second. Awesome. Congratulations, guys. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, y'all. Great job. Thank you for coming.
It's a lot of recognitions, very positive.
All right. Let the doors hit shut. Yeah. You can just sign it, Alice. That's fine. Do you need a pen, Rick? Cool.
What happened? What was
She just didn't get in the doors in time.
Oh.
So bad.
Fire code. All right, now we have public forum. We have 3 people that are signed up to speak tonight. The first person will be Cassie Cernat. Up here. Yes, ma'am. That's fine. I'm going to give you the rules of the road before you start going, okay?
Perfect.
All right, you're going to have 5 minutes to speak. There'll be a timer up here with 1 minute left. Mr. Hawksworth's going to let you know there's 1 minute left. So
Okay.
to let you know, the board will not ask any questions or have any comments. So
just when I'm done, I'm done.
when you're done or the 5 minutes is done,
I'll be
whichever
done
comes
before
first.
5 minutes.
All right, your turn.
Good. Okay, so I prepared something just because as a mother's heart, we're here to advocate for our children, and you guys have spoke all night about safety and advocacy and growing in this town. And I think that's wonderful, and I just wanted to bring a couple other things to the table so that we can continue to go in that direction, in a positive direction. So recently my child was injured during an indoor off-season athletic class.
Ms. Cernat, can I
I'm sorry.
stop you 1 second?
Sure.
So, as my email I sent to you earlier, since you have a level 1 grievance with the district, I just want to be mindful that speaking to the board in public session will prevent us from potentially being level 3 officers So I'm letting you know if you're sharing anything specific.
No, if a student's name's not mentioned, a campus is not mentioned, no teachers are mentioned, can I still proceed?
If it's pertaining to anything that's in your level 1 grievance, I would advise you not speak about it to the board publicly, for it would make us recuse ourselves as level 3 officers if it did escalate to level 3 hearing. So it's your choice to continue. But just as I said in my email earlier this week, we want to be advocates and be able to hear anything that comes to a level 3 grievance hearing. And
I would hope that it doesn't go there.
if
would be my hope.
Like I said, it's very rare. However, if it does escalate to a level 3, we've all been biased to information potentially. So I'm just letting you know that.
Okay.
So it's your choice.
I mean, that throws me completely for a loop, because this is like,
I understand.
not just for my son, this is for students, so.
I understand. I just want to be clear with you, like, as level 3
I mean, I
hearing
appreciate you
officers.
setting the expectation
Yeah.
and for me to know my boundaries, but I feel like as a parent, we're not guided to know our boundaries, and so that's, I mean, I don't know what to say to you.
But you do have relief at a level 1 grievance hearing. I'm just saying, if it did escalate up, we want to be able to hear everything you have to share. If we hear everything you have to share here, we as board members aren't going to be able to participate in that level 3 hearing, and it will be an outside person.
So where would this information be best spoken if it's not here?
The principal is your level 1 hearing officer. The level 2 hearing officer, if it goes to that level, is the deputy superintendent, and then the level 3 hearing officers are the school board.
Again, I'm not preventing you from talking. I just want to let you know that sharing your concerns that are at a level 1 grievance right now will prevent us from being able to hear your concerns at a level 3 if it escalated there. So
Have you had anyone that was in this situation to where they weren't able to speak on a vague basis of safety?
I'm just letting you know, if it pertains to your level 1 grievance that you have, then eventually that same information would get to us if it goes to a level 3. So I don't want us to not be able to serve our role as level 3 hearing officers, because we've been biased by level 1 information. So typically when something comes to a level 3 hearing with the board, we have no information whatsoever other than level 1 was appealed, level 2 was appealed, and now it's coming to the board. And so when it comes to a level 3 grievance, the least amount of information we have going into it, that's the optimal situation. So again, I'm not trying to not hear you right now, and I'm not saying that if you go through your level 1 grievance and things are rectified at level 1, that information will come to the board. I'm just saying at this point right now, in the way the procedures go, I'm just letting you know I don't want us to be biased as level 3 officers and not be able to hear your concerns potentially at a later point down the road.
When is the next board meeting you have before school ends?
It's the 3rd Monday of every month.
May's
So
earlier.
May will be.
And at a level 1 grievance, there's a 10 to 15 day response time? Is that true?
I'm not sure.
So that we make sure that our dates line up with where I need to
Can
present
I say it to
information.
you a different way?
Sure.
Because if there's general issues you want to talk about in school safety and stuff, I think what Sam is saying, if what you need to say to us pertains to your grievance, you would be smarter to deal with the grievance process and let us hear that in that process. If you get that resolved and there's still things you think, and you never talk to us, but you want to talk about things about safety to the board after you don't jeopardize your kind of rights, that's the time for you to come and then say whatever, and you get your cake and eat it too, so to speak.
Okay.
It's really about your timing of presenting to the board.
And
But
that's
if it's,
what I need the most education on. I feel like
Yeah.
parents do need the most education because you feel lost in this process.
Yeah.
Sure.
And just, in general, in talking with the board, in sending us correspondence or talking with us, like, if there's not a grievance, like, we're approachable. We can talk, we can answer emails, but more times than not, in regards to how best to keep communication. It's, and this is outside of grievance hearing, starting obviously with teacher, if they're not rectified, and then going to the campus administrator, and then superintendent or deputy superintendent, and then the board. So again, this is why we're losing intelligence here on the board, because he can say things better than I can, but I understand the frustration you have, and we want to hear concerns. If we go through the process with you in the level 1 grievance, like, we'll hear, and then it's,
So
if
that
that's
will be
rectified,
communicated to you, even at a level 1.
if level 1, if everything's rectified
It's
between,
resolved.
if it's resolved at level 1, then we're gonna get a recap, and then we can speak then. If it's not resolved at level 1, you'll appeal it, it'll go to level 2, same process. If it's rectified there, then we're gonna hear a recap of it. If it comes to level 3, then we're gonna be able to hear the whole thing, and then we're the presiding officers over it, and we'll make a determination.
Okay, then I'll wait to have my cake and eat it too on the behalf of my son.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grievance process, is it online? Online?
In policy, in board policy, yes. F and G.
Okay, next speaking is John Bain. Bain?
Give up.
One more time. John.
From maybe his address, Oregon Trail. Is someone here from Oregon Trail?
Okay.
He left? Someone said he left?
Okay. And Mrs. Linehan, you know the rules of the road? You've been here before.
Been around
Okay.
a long time. It's been a long time since I've been here. And I've been fighting the battle for our kids down in Austin. And a view of the classroom of today would astound onlookers that mental health and social, emotional, and behavioral interventions have replaced academics. Because of the shift mandated through state and federal laws that have already been passed, our education system is not only failing Texas students, but it's doing great harm to them. Through the MAPS, I know that you're considering the MAPS assessment and curriculum management system, and I want to vehemently oppose this. The use of the MAP test consideration should be immediately halted. MAP assessment is an unconstitutional and dangerous behavioral management tool. When administrators, teachers, and parents cannot see the questions and answers on a test, all due process, parental rights, and transparency are removed. The statements from the NWEA and the fact that MAP won the SEL award should give trustees the factual information needed to stop the consideration of using this computer adaptive assessment. The Texas Education Code 26009 requires written parental consent for psychological examination, testing, and treatment. Parents are not being asked to consent to these digital curriculum platforms that collect psychological information on our children. The federal rule relating to student privacy and examination, testing, and treatment gives definitions. Psychiatric and psychological examination or test means a method of obtaining information, including a group activity that is not directly related to academic instruction, and that is designed to elicit information about attitudes, habits, traits, opinions, beliefs, and feelings. Psychiatric and psychological treatment means an activity involving the planned, systematic use of methods or techniques that are not directly related to academic instruction and that are designed to affect behavioral, emotional, or attitudinal characteristics of an individual or group. Every intrusive survey app, check-in, well-being check your child is that we're getting that requires attitudes, habits, traits, opinions, beliefs, and feelings meets these definitions. It's illegal. Technology should be used as a tool, not as a teacher, and it should never, ever be used that collect SEL, social emotional data on our children, that portfolio will follow our children for the rest of their lives. Do you want that for your own children and grandchildren? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We can pull up donations, please. Okay, for the April 2023 donations, we have $1,500 from an anonymous donor for the girls' soccer supplies. From Argyle South PTA, $1,888.32 for teacher staff office supplies, and from AEBC, $3,500 for branding and signage in the high school field house. Total April donations, $6,888.32. Does anyone have any questions on anything on the consent agenda?
I do. I assume, Dr. Stever, this is you, the TEAC certification. Does that follow you? So, and I just want to make sure this document is specifying the plans for 23, 24? Okay. So can you tell me a little bit, I mean, there's references to Lucy Calkins in here quite a bit, and those, you know, it's been in the news a lot lately, that, you know, they've been pulled, Lucy Calkins has been pulled out of some of the other states, some even districts in Texas. I think Highland Park is one that took her out as well. So I just want to kind of ask about that in terms of, are there other programs that we could investigate? And did we? What are those? I don't know what those are. But I did do, you know, a little bit of research on that. Like I mentioned, I know other states have just said we're not going to approve Lucy Calkins anymore. And I think she even made a statement recently that her program it didn't live up to what people's expectations were. So I just, you know, you're the expert in this area, so I just wanted to ask your opinion on that. This Lucy Calkins, is that the best option we can offer for our students? What other ones did we investigate? So that's really, those are my questions.
So there's no one perfect curriculum. I'll start with, we write our own curriculum. So there's not a curriculum that we use exclusively. We do use Lucy Calkins as a resource for our reading and writing curriculum. So our curriculum writers, along with curriculum specialists and myself, instructional services coordinator, have gone through and vetted every lesson that is a part of our curriculum. So we don't use it exclusively. You know, there are other resources that we use, but we write our own curriculum.
So are those, I may have missed it, but are there others listed in there, other resources in those reading and writing areas?
Not, so they're looking at like district purchased items. So no, so there's like when you look at reading and writing, phonics, you know, there you'll see that we supplement with Heggerty, some. So that's I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that I mean Heggerty is.
Yeah, I mean for me, like I said, I just know that it's been that program has been catching some heat lately. Obviously, there's a lot of talk in the community.
Yeah, tell me what the issues. I'm in the dark here.
Yeah, I don't. I just know that states are pulling it from.
For what reason?
I didn't read all the reasons that they're pulling it from these other states. Highland Park, I can tell you, I found. If I can pull it up here.
Dr. Stever, do you know why? Is it controversial for some reason?
I've seen, I mean, there's some articles out there that say that it is in conflict with the science of teaching reading. We have been able to mesh the two and use both to support our curriculum. I do not believe that there are significant problems with Lucy Calkins.
This is a quote.
Like I said, nothing's perfect. No curriculum is perfect. So, are there pieces of it that we feel like we need to make adjustments to fit just like they spoke about the expectations of the district and our community, sure, but we would do that with any resource that we use.
So there's a quote from her that I found that says, "Teachers don't need to teach students the capitals of states. Teachers no longer need to be dishing out information to the uninformed." Isn't that what a teacher's, to me, that seems like that's a teacher's role.
I mean, I can't speak to it.
Yeah. So again, I just want to make sure that, we've been, in the North Texas area, there's been a lot of conversations about making sure that our education aligns with the values of our communities, right? So I just want to make sure that when we do things like this, that we have things in there that are currently having issues, not only in other states, but in Texas specifically, that we're making sure that we're doing the right things. I'm not questioning you like I say, I am questioning you directly, but I just want to make sure that that's the case. And how do we provide training to our staff and the curriculum? Are they, on Lucy College, they get trained on that?
Absolutely.
So the district provides them training?
Yes.
Okay. The only other question I had in that same document, it refers to iStation, but I think we are talking later about not using iStation. So will that just get edited later if we change it?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Stieber or anything else on the consent agenda? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Mr. Wester, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Matthew Slayton with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay. Training hours. You just want me to read them out loud? Or? Okay. There we go. All right. I'm going to read our training hours, and they have to be read into record. So there we go. Mr. Richie Deffenbaugh, in progress. Dr. Leona McDade, complete. Mr. Joshua Westrom, in progress. Mr. Matthew Slayton, complete. Mr. Craig Hawksworth, in progress. Dr. John Bitter, in progress.
Incomplete.
Incomplete. And Mr. Sam Slayton, complete. All right. There we go. Jeff, come on down.
Hello. Good evening. Just a brief construction update for you. We are wrapping up the parking lot expansion next door with the finishing of the landscape. We had some sod start going in on Friday, so we're very, very near completion on that project. On our,
can I ask a question about
yes.
the parking there? Like, I know the town of Flower Mound only allows us a certain amount of parking spots based upon our enrollment, correct? The spots that are being sodded right now, is that easement, or could that potentially be a parking lot in the future?
There's very little of that would be able to be used as a parking lot because of the landscape buffer requirement. Okay. I believe we're 75-foot setbacks on that curve. At the widest part, you could squeeze in a few more, but it would probably not be cost effective.
All right, I just saw all the sod going out. I'm like, you could fit a lot more parking spots in there, but I knew you'd have the answer.
But we cannot get that close to the road.
Awesome.
I believe it's 75 feet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Maintenance and transportation. They are on both projects working on installing the new underground plumbing. So we had to go in and saw cut the floor to put that in, so they're working on installing that right now. They are also framing walls that are not in conflict with that plumbing work, which will be followed by in-wall electrical and plumbing rough-in. At the 6th grade center, They are sheetrocking walls right now. Still working on MEP, overhead and in wall. They've started ceramic tile in the bathrooms. I think one of the bathrooms is complete now, one of the group restrooms. Our flooring should start at the intermediate building, at the old round building, within the next 2 weeks. We should also be starting on the roofing of the gymnasium portion of the building in the next 2 weeks. And we should be pouring back concrete in the next 2 weeks, again, where we saw cut the floor to put in new plumbing in both buildings.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
On the maintenance part, are we just using all the existing buildings that are out there, or are we building anything new?
We are not creating any new space, it's just buildings that are there. We're not expanding any square footage.
Okay, do we have room to expand square
We
footage?
do have room to expand or put additional separate buildings out on that property.
Is that something that you might do in the future?
I could easily see that in the future as we, develop new needs, perhaps building additional facilities out there.
Okay, I'm still, I know this brings up a sore subject, but I'm still thinking about archery, so they have a great spot out there, and I just hate to not have it be there.
Right.
And if it was simple, I know there's been discussion about doing something at the middle school. I know they're even looking for their own spot, and all that, but they have such a sweet little space right there. And I would just really love if we could take that space and make it someplace else and let them keep what they have. But that's, I don't know if I'm one of seven or just me, but it's kind of just always bothered me that they're going to lose that. So
We are definitely exploring options as we start on the middle school project to see if we can find a way to make some space for them there.
that's their own space.
It would be a shared space.
And again, the construction and the maintenance was part of the 2017 bond.
Correct.
Okay.
Remind me, Jeff, why we're putting a new roof on the gymnasium? Because didn't we just replace that roof 2 or 3 years ago, it seems like?
Did not. The roof that was replaced was on the hallway
Okay, so just
section,
that part.
just
Okay,
that part of
okay.
it. So, I mean, maintenance could speak better to this, but there are many, many leaks on that roof, and it's just become almost impossible to stop them.
On the gymnasium side?
On the gymnasium
Okay,
side,
okay,
yes,
thanks.
just that side.
I think is when we replaced the roof and upgraded it on the round building.
Okay, I was thinking it was the wing also.
We did, part of it, but
Okay.
you might be thinking about that time we spent.
So have we looked at, I'm assuming at the middle school, I shouldn't say assuming, I believe I've heard that at the middle school you'd be building maybe a new space, a joint space, not necessarily utilizing a space that's already there. And I'm looking at that in comparison to maybe building a new space.
At the current middle school you're referring to?
Yes.
Yes, at the current middle school, I'm not aware of any plan other than use of the auxiliary gym over there.
Okay, were we not talking about building an addition or something back there for them?
I think that Mr.
At the new location, we're trying to find a way that we can get them some space, but I've never been involved in discussions that do anything at the
I think Mr. Cohen's
377.
talking about middle school 1, the grade 7, grade 8 operation at 407.
Correct,
Okay, not the current building.
correct.
Because that's going to be the high school.
Not that we can, but I haven't been asked to look at anything there.
I mean, I just, if somebody tells me that we've exhausted all possibilities, I'll accept that piece. But if somebody tells me that we haven't, I really would like some consideration somewhere to be able to keep them where they are.
I think we've already voted on.
Yeah,
use of
keeping them
that.
where they're at, I think,
I
is
know.
all but impossible since we've started that project now, so.
We voted 7-0 to put it maintenance where they're going.
Mhm.
So,
Well, that's why I asked if there was space to do something still there, but not use that particular spot.
There is. not existing space though.
Right, not
There's
existing
land,
space.
not existing building space.
Understood, okay.
Okay. So on our Ricotta upgrade project, we've got cameras replaced at Hilltop. Cameras have been replaced at the middle school. They are in progress at the intermediate school. They've done all that they're able to outside of the areas that are under construction. With our door access, they have started replacing those at the intermediate school, and that's gone very smoothly. So I badged in the other day, didn't even know they changed it. So I think that was a good test run for us at an unoccupied campus. So we'll be making plans to get that in progress on the rest of them. Elementary 4, our 90% drawing set is due out this Thursday. That is the set that we will take to the market to come back with a GMP price and value engineering options for that school. We are also working to submit any drawing sets we can to the various authorities that will review this project. So that's the town of Northlake, has certain items they'll review. We've got Hillwood, along with Belmont Water Supply, that will review certain pieces of it, which a lot of that has more to do with aesthetics than anything else. But then also we will be required to submit a set to Safe Built for a building permit. And a lot of this is set forth in the development agreement that Hillwood created with the town of Northlake and then became a part of our title when they donate that land. We have also begun the design process on our new middle school, our stadium, and our indoor activity center. Those have all kicked off in the last 2 weeks. And so we're starting to get our initial responses from architects at this time. And here within the next month, I'm sure we'll probably be having our second round of meetings with staff and the different departments on those projects. That's all I have. Any other questions?
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'll have pictures next month. It's still a little too scary.
We have a representative from Pogue, right? Could we introduce the representative from Pogue so everyone up here knows who's here from Pogue?
Sure. This is Brad Anderson. He's here representing Pogue, and I will present to you later on elementary board.
Awesome. All right, Dr. Wright, your report.
Yes. Go ahead and pull up, Josh, and start with this letter that we received from the Texas Department of Agriculture. Now, this is an unusual and noteworthy letter because this Lena Wilson says that this just doesn't happen very much. And this is a tribute, of course, to Amy Bresnahan. But you see up there where it says it's written to me, but it's regarding excellent no findings administrative review award letter. And it tells the district, congratulations for achieving operational excellence in the National School Lunch Program. The results of your most recent administrative review revealed an exceptional commitment to compliance. The no findings determination is an accomplishment worthy of recognition from your peers, your community, and the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm not going to read it all to you, but I just want you to know how truly noteworthy this is and what an outstanding National School Lunch Program that Mrs. Bresnahan and then, of course, Mr. Ledford and Mr. Daniel have put together. So thank you for allowing me to share that with you. Okay, I'm going to need you to forward some through here, Josh, but go to page 1 for starters. This is a legislative session update. Stop on page 4, deadlines. People are always talking about when's the legislative session going to end? When will we know if we're going to get the basic allotment increased? When are we going to know what's going to happen with formula transition grant? There are a lot of questions about that. Depends on the regular session, but it also depends on if we have a special session. So I just wanted to point these deadlines out, that these are very important dates. The 8th of May, the last day for House committees to report out House bills. The 12th, the last day for the House to consider House bills on the floor. May 24, the last day to pass bills, and any amendments have to be addressed by the 28th. That is in regular session, of course. And then the 29th, the last day of regular session. So those are big impending deadlines. Then if we could go forward.
The last legislative session, they had 2 or 3 special
Yes,
sessions.
yes,
3
exactly.
specials, and each special session is 30 days. So.
Mhm. Then we have some high priorities. Our state leadership priority bill, everything tagged to a legislative priority, bills that would require changes in district policy, practice, or procedures that would require significant resources to implement or would significantly impact the district. Bills that garner significant public attention, controversy, or debate. Medium priority, bills that would require changes in policy, practice, or procedures that would require some resources to implement or would significantly impact the district. Bills that garner significant public attention, controversy, or debate. And then finance, I do want to talk about 4 pieces from House Bill, all of House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 30 are really, really important. House Bill 1 fully funds current law, which includes $2.5 billion in funding for enrollment growth and $2.4 billion increase to the state aid for the guaranteed yield on golden pennies. It provides an additional $5 billion for public education funding increases. It recognizes a savings of $6.4 billion as a result of property value increases. It dedicates $17.3 billion to property tax relief. It reduces recapture payments by $6.8 billion, and it includes $1.05 billion for the Technology and Instructional Materials Fund. Senate Bill 30 reduces the appropriations for public education funding in the current biennium by $8.2 billion, and it appropriates $1.6 billion to the TEA for school safety initiatives. So that's very important. The next, if you go to the next slide, please, for me. House Bill 100, I'm going to hit 4 of these, or really more than 4. There's more, but that I feel like are very important to us. House Bill 100 increases the minimum salary schedule for teachers and nurses and sets the rates based on years of experience, ranging from $35,000 for a teacher with less than 5 years years of experience and no certificate to $63,000 for a certified teacher with 10 or more years. It increases the basic allotment by $90 in the 93-94 school year and by an additional $50 minimum in the 24-25 school year. That's very important to us to have the basic allotment increased. For the 24-25 school year, basic allotment adds on inflationary adjustment to increase the basic allotment. And this bill requires school districts to spend 50% of the increase in the basic allotment on increasing compensation for classroom teachers, for librarians, for counselors, and for nurses. A few more very important pieces of this. It extends, this is extremely important, it extends the formula transition grant through the 29-30 school year. That would be very valuable for Argyle. It allows school districts to access 6 cents up from 5 cents golden pennies without voter approval. It makes the facilities yield amount based on enrollment. A lot of this is going to enrollment. Makes the bilingual education allotment based on enrollment, makes the early education allotment based on enrollment, and makes the GT enrollment based, the GT allotment based on enrollment. If we can get something that's based on enrollment rather than attendance, that's a big plus for us. Okay, go to teacher rights.
One question on the allotment increase, $90 and $50 next year. What is our current allotment? It's like 6,600, or what is it?
You know the exact dollar amount on the basic allotment that,
Go back down there on that page, it's on there, I wanna say it's 61. Oh, well, sorry, that was on a different page, I just reread it, I think it's 61.
yeah,
So we're talking
60,
about a,
that sounds right, 61.
like a 1.5% increase then?
It would take a much more significant increase to, keep pace with the inflation that we've seen since 2019, and to move our district out of the formula transition grant.
Yeah.
What it will do is any increase in any area of funding under that would significantly lower the potential funding cliff that we would hit if the formula transition grant was not extended. Because it moves money into a different line item and out of formula transition grant. So you get more up here in the main parts and less in formula transition grant. So any increase in there would be good for us, but it does not keep up with inflation. So.
Can you go back up, Rick? The last bullet point, I think, on that slide, creates a book safety allotment of $3 per student.
In average enrollment to ensure that school library books and related materials meet the relevant standards. There's a
And
bill
who
about
sets
library
and
books.
the TEA setting the relevant standards, or does the community, or
The
the board set
community
those?
has the ability to set your own standards for books.
Okay. Okay.
You can set your own standards for what you want read in class too.
Okay. Thank you.
And you can always provide a parent with an optional assignment if they don't approve of what is being read.
Okay.
Okay, teacher rights. I'm not going to read all of these, but some of them are extremely important. This is from Senate Bill 9. Requires the district to provide a duty calendar to teachers each year, including days on which a teacher is expected to perform supplemental duties for more than 30 minutes outside the instructional day. Expands the reasons for which a teacher may resign after the penalty, free resignation period without incurring sanctions. Requires TEA to provide assistance to districts in creating a local designation system for the teacher incentive allotment. Creates a grant program to assist school districts in rehiring retirees. Allows teachers to remove students, there are about 5 of these that hook together. Allows teachers to remove students from their classroom who interfere with instruction, or disruptive, abusive toward the teacher, another adult, or another student, or engage in bullying. Requires a return to class plan prepared by someone other than the teacher prior to the student being returned to class. Allows the student to appeal their removal, and requires that each student removed from class by a teacher be considered as removed from the classroom for the purposes of PIMS reporting. Provides $2,000 per teacher who has a mentor under a mentoring program up to 40 teachers. Creates a teacher retention allotment for the 23-24 school year, only of $2,000 per teacher for districts with more than 20,000 students and $6,000 for districts with less than 20,000 students. But it doesn't pay for that after this year. Requires school districts to increase salaries for the 23-24 school year only by the amount provided, and repeals the prohibition on passing cost of surcharges for rehiring retirees to the retiree, because that's been one of the ways that people that were coming back were penalized.
Can I ask
Okay.
a question about the teacher incentive allotment? It says they're adding another level, so I guess that makes it 4 levels now. And it also talks about increasing the amount. Do we have a lot of teachers participating in the teacher incentive allotment?
We haven't put that teacher incentive allotment in place yet.
Okay.
We're in a group to put it in place, but our group hasn't come up yet.
And you say our group hasn't come up, that's from
From when
TEA decides that, or how does that?
From when we first signed up, what group that we would be in for teacher incentive allotment.
Okay, so our teachers haven't been.
We did it through Region 11 and through the state.
And so our teachers and our group hasn't been
No,
given
we
the
don't have a
opportunity to
teacher
participate.
incentive allotment plan in place. We continue to work toward that, but we don't at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question about that third bullet from the bottom? requires school districts to increase salaries for 23-24 school year only by the amount provided. So is that saying that the state is gonna tell us, I guess it's their minimum? I mean, they have an amount that they
Right.
say that we have to give every year. So what they're saying is we can only increase their salaries for next year?
Well, they're just saying that they're only requiring school districts to increase next year's salary by the amount provided. You don't have to pay more than what's provided. You don't have to. You can, but you don't have to.
Oh, so you're talking about the base pay?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And there wouldn't be any districts in this area that would be on base pay.
Right, understood. Okay.
Okay, we want to go to House Bill 11. There you go, House Bill 11. Okay, just a couple here. Makes students of classroom teachers eligible for pre-K. That is a really good thing, because right now our teachers are having to pay $650 a month if they want their child in pre-K. So that would be a nice boost for them. Increases
Is there any
the
way
basic.
to retro that? Probably 14 years. Just asking. Just random.
That would be challenging.
That would be challenging. All
So
right.
who would cover that cost then?
Well, we wouldn't get the money.
You
Right
just
now,
wouldn't
we're getting tuition from the teachers who want to send their child, and we're getting tuition from the lottery students. So the district would be covering it.
We make them eligible under the same pre-K rules.
We'd get some money from being eligible. We get funding on the eligibles, like.
Qualified pre-K students can receive half-day pre-K funding through our funding formula.
Okay.
So once you reach kindergarten, it's attendance, pre-K is attendance-based as well, but when you're in kindergarten or and up, it's a full day, counts as a full day. For pre-K, they can only count half a day as far as the funding.
So like right now, if you're military, if you're economically disadvantaged, if you are emergent bilingual learner, you're eligible. So this would just, and if you're a foster child, you're eligible. So this would just add the classroom teachers' children to eligible.
The eligibility list.
So we would get probably money for half a day, but then not money for the other half.
Okay. Thank you.
Increases the basic allotment by 50. This is in House Bill 11, and makes the small and mid-sized district allotment based on enrollment. Okay, that's just, you can look at any of that you want, but those are some of the high points. Parental rights out of Senate Bill 8 requires school districts to allow for open enrollment with limited exceptions. We would meet the exception because we are so crowded. Creates a process for requesting an instructional material review. Requires school districts to provide an internal portal through which parents can submit comments to campus or district administration and the board. We're planning on putting that in place anyway. Requires school districts to hear public comment at the beginning of each board meeting. We do that all the time. Makes changes to the requirements for local grievance procedures, including significantly increasing the timeline for filing agreements. Right now, it's 15 days. Prohibits instruction regarding sexual orientation and gender identity that is not age appropriate. Allows the parent to retain their student as frequently as they want. That's new. It's been on achievement in the past. Requires school districts to have 2 parent-teacher conferences per year for all students, and allows the parent to retain their child as frequently as they want. So there's a few changes there. School safety, this is an important bill. House Bill 3 requires TEA to consult with the Texas School Safety Center in adopting facility standards, and requires school districts to employ an armed security officer at every campus. So that could be significant. House Bill 669, which is Senate Bill 838, requires districts to provide each classroom with silent panic alert technology that allows for immediate contact with district emergency services or emergency services, law enforcement, health departments, and fire departments. And then on the far right there, House Bill 473 and Senate Bill 562 requires the threat assessment team to notify a parent prior to conducting a threat assessment of a student to provide the parent with an opportunity to participate in the assessment.
You know, House Bill 3 and House Bill 669, those can be some extremely large expenses for districts
Yes.
that aren't equipped like we are already. So,
Can I ask a
ahead of
question
the curve.
about House Bill 3? It says increase the school safety allotment to $10. Isn't it $9.70 now?
Yes.
It's not a significant increase on the way it's written.
Okay, so but then it does say at a minimum of 15,000 per campus. So that is.
That would be good, that's correct. But the
30,
change in the
28
amount for
cents,
ADA
30.
is
30 cents.
will not generate significant money, and
Yeah.
even in a district that has thousands and thousands of students, you would have much more expense to meet any of the requirements of what that would be generating.
Right.
Okay, just a little bit more here. On instructional materials, if you can go to that, House Bill 1605 requires the commissioner to make open education resource instructional material available for ELA and math for K-8, pre-K ELA and math, and all foundation curriculum courses in K-8. Let's keep rolling to House Bill 2162. Thank you. Prohibits the district from administering a reading assessment more than 3 times in a year, and requires districts to use a reading instrument from a list adopted by the commissioner in K through 3. There's some info on virtual learning that allows school districts to provide instruction through virtual courses, and then House Bill 4545 update. We've talked to you a lot about House Bill 4545 and the utilization of House Bill 4545 and the instruction that went along with it. The was part of what we used with our subgroups to increase their performance. But this is House Bill 1416 is the update, and it eliminates accelerated learning committees, which is what we have to have now, limits the requirement for supplemental instruction to students who fail to perform satisfactorily on English, reading, or math assessments. It eliminates the minimum hours requirement for students receiving accelerated instruction. It allows accelerated instruction to be provided before or after school. It adjusts the minimum hours requirement for students receiving supplemental instruction to 15 hours. It increases the tutor-student ratio to 1:5 for students in grades below 9 and 1:10 for high school students. It allows parents to opt out of or opt to reduce supplemental instruction. It eliminates the requirement for an accelerated education plan. Except for students who fail assessments more than one year in a row. It clarifies that ARD committees shall develop accelerated education plans for students with IEPs for whom an accelerated education plan is required. So this is a significant change to House Bill 4545, provided it passes. Now, next page, library materials. This is something that Mr. Hawksworth was bringing up here. It requires school districts to establish an opt-out notification for parents each time their student checks out a library book. It requires the Texas State Library and Archives Commission to establish required standards for the selection of library materials. Then it requires districts to establish local school advisory councils to recommend materials for addition to the library catalog and to review challenged materials. So you've got a state and then you've got a local involved. Requires library materials proposed for selection to be available 30 days before approval by the board, and requires library materials to be approved by the board prior to purchase. That's Senate Bill 13. Then property tax, and I know you're aware of this, but Senate Bill 3 raises the homestead exemption from $40K to $70K pending voter approval of a proposed constitutional amendment, and includes a hold harmless provision for school district INS funding.
So question on that, because I've written a note about that. Is that, are they giving a time frame on that, on the hold harmless, or is it?
I haven't seen the full detail of the bill yet. And
Okay.
depending on the language in it when it passes, if it's, you know, for 10 years, ongoing, or it's for the next 2 years. But I have not seen the actual details.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we don't know how long the hold harmless is.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
and
you.
those are the
So,
main points. This came out of the North Texas Legislative Network last week.
That House Bill 2, I mean, if that comes, that's a significant issue for us.
So, the way it is written there, yes. So the change, if the appraisal cap goes from 10 to 5%, if there's not any type of hold harmless on existing debt, then that would be issued for us and any other district that has sold bonds on future growth.
And-
that are extremely, that are either 50 cents or close to 50 cents.
There's gotta be so many districts in the state of Texas
Right,
that
so
they have to.
There's,
So-
you know, that
No way.
was the original, I believe the way it was drafted in there, and I think it's got quite a bit to go through before it would become law.
So, but currently the language doesn't have a hold harmless.
Not for that part that I have seen. And again,
But they'll go
it
back to
also
committee
goes to,
more
Oh,
than likely.
yeah, there's no
it
way.
goes away from, I believe, not just homesteads, but all property. So again, our biggest concern on that would be the INS. Anything in the know, they typically put some form of hold harmless. It's, you know, it's still funded on per student and all of that. And they usually have, you know, if the M&O lowers, then, you know, you don't get as much local, you get more state. But the INS for us is a significant issue, and so that's one that we'll watch.
So not only the bonds that we've already sold, but the ones we need to sell.
That would, it would impact our future capacity.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we've got a long way to go towards the, May.
But I agree.
You would assume it would
But
go
we
to
have to
committee.
be thinking about, this came up on the bond oversight committee, that we have to have a discussion about this. And Mike Leisher happened to be there, and he was saying the same thing. We have to start thinking about this. How are we gonna handle this if it does somehow make it out of there? So.
Okay. Shifting gear from the legislative session to our activities that have to do with athletics and also, of course, our One Act play, which is advanced this year. Girls soccer got second in district, and then they lost to Midlothian Heritage 2-1 in by district. Softball is currently in first place in district with 2 district games remaining. Baseball's currently in second in district. There's a big series this week against undefeated Grapevine. Tennis became the district champions. They advanced 8 players to regionals. Magna Kumar won girls singles, and she competes at 5A state in San Antonio, April 25 and 6. Boys golf got second in district and advanced, and Argyle Red got 4th, and they'll be playing this week in Lubbock. Girls golf, Argyle Black won the district championship, and Argyle Red got 5th in district, and Argyle Black competed today at regionals, and they're in first place by 1 stroke right now, and they'll be playing again tomorrow. Track varsity, girls and boys, each got second at district, and the area meet is this Friday in Joshua, and Tyler Western broke the school record in the 3200 with 908.47. On signing day, we had 17 student athletes sign athletic scholarships in 5 sports. Now, we've got that One Act play in Lubbock, and then we'll have also UIL academic team, district winners in Lubbock at regional. So we've got play at regional as well as golf, and as well as, boys golf, girls golf, and then we have the UIL team. So there are a lot of things going on.
That's 2 miles in 9 minutes. That's crazy.
That was fast.
That's
Work hard
crazy. That's crazy.
We should give him a plaque. We should give Dad a plaque. Okay, that's all I have.
All right. Who's gonna do the demographic report?
I'll talk about that a little bit. I don't want to go through this page by page or anything like that. I just want to go to the numbers, but the numbers haven't really changed.
Because this was at our workshop last week.
It was. You heard the entire thing in the workshop, yes.
Yep.
There are some interesting pieces. If you'll go to page 15, please, Josh. This TEA transfer report is interesting. It tells where the transfers are coming in from and where the transfers are going out to. And you may be sitting there going, transfers, what are we talking about? We have employees who bring their students in, their children in, and then we still have a few, very few of the limited open enrollment students. And then if we have somebody right now, say, who's building a house and their house is under construction and they're in a school where we took transfers like South, then that would also be a transfer. So those are some situations where you'd have transfers. You can see Denton and Northwest were the two that were the highest. And then we have some transfers going out from the district also to other areas. You can see Northwest gets some of them, and also the Texas College Preparatory Academies. Then the numbers haven't, they didn't change the numbers much since October, but we still have low numbers and high numbers. But it built out for the 32-33 year. The district could go as high as 10,442 on the low side, and then on the high side it goes all the way to 11,959. And you can see broken down by campus. On the low side, your elementary at build out goes to 4527. Your sixth grade center at build out goes to 810. Middle school to 1730. High school, but you've got to add 1730 and 810 to get the total 6 through 8 population. High school goes to 3375. And then if you go to the high end, you have much more bigger difference. 5167 on elementary, 1988 plus 929 on middle school. That's when the high school goes to 3875 for a total of 11,950.
And what I heard from Trent, if I recall, was that he believes we will eventually, if we don't get to this high in 2032, we will eventually. He still thinks that that's going to be our max projection, right? But it might be slower to get to that.
Peak.
Yeah, that's our peak.
Yeah, it's not a matter of if, but when.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it also, compared to the last report, it did push out a little bit, right? To your point, saying it's not a matter of that we're not gonna get to 12,000, but maybe not as soon as we thought.
Yeah, I think he was saying if it's the slower trajectory, we won't be there in 2032, but we will get there.
You'll still get there, it just won't be what we thought.
Right.
I think that's the reason we look at this every 6 months, right?
Right, it's got a twice-year review. Okay.
All right, Liz. I was giving the benefit of the doubt.
Alright, so this is just our update on our progress of the 23-24 budget. We talked about it for the first time last month. And I will tell you, some of these slides are pretty consistent every month when you see them. There might not be a change for a couple of months, so we'll kind of go a little bit quicker over those. And sometimes we'll bring it to you and we'll know a little bit more about each one of them. So kind of what you're getting is the overall top-level picture of how we're developing the budget and what we're doing in our office and throughout the district is going through, line by line and making sure that we're looking at next year's projections, what may affect it, what may change, if we need to go out and get some additional quotes. We're looking at where we're at on that line item this year. Do you think we're in the right spot for this year? Are we miscalculated? Are we under or over? And what that might affect not only this year but next year. So that's kind of what we're doing on our end. All right, so this is our just our overall timeline of basically when we're having budget talks here at our board meetings. We're again at our second meeting here on April 17th. Later this month, we should receive our certified estimates from the Denton Appraisal District. We'll come back and have an update at the May meeting.
It's going to be on time this year.
Yeah, we definitely hope it will be on time. I have talked with them, and I feel like they're making good progress. They're in a good spot, and then we'll have some good data for us by the end of this month, and should be in line for update in our May meeting, and then we're gonna have our workshop where we'll get a little bit more deeper dive into the nitty-gritty of the budget and not just the overall, overview budget. And then we'll have an update at each board meeting, until the 25th. Again, we'll have certified values, and then on August 21st, we hope to have our public hearing to adopt our budget and tax rate at that time. Okay, these are our same key budget factors from last month. I did add one in here, that very last one, the ESSER funding cliff, and we'll talk about that in a minute when we get through this. So again, I'm not gonna, a lot of my notes had on some legislative things, and so I don't wanna duplicate what Dr. Wright has already, and you've already discussed some of these. There were, I think it was like 1301 education bills filed, that's just the round number, 1,300. But everything we're doing is based on current law, because that's what we know right now, that's what we can build a budget on, and then as laws are passed, things are changed, then we make adaptations into that. But we're constantly looking to see, oh, well, what if this happens, what would that do? Is there new funding to go along with that? Are there requirements for the finance end on our budget? So, again, some of the key financial legislative considerations. There's quite a bit of talk about property tax relief. There's several bills in there on that. We've already talked about again, some notes that I had on the cap going from 10% to 5%, and how important that'll be on our INS side. Increasing the basic allotment. There were several bills with different amounts in there, and they're all still kind of working their way through. And then funding on enrollment versus ADA, the most movement I've seen on that is not the overall funding, but on your special populations potentially moving to enrollment. So not getting enrollment funding for completely replacing attendance, but at least maybe on the special populations they'll move to enrollment. That seems to be the latest trend on that. And then some information in there on the school safety allotment. There were quite a few bills filed on that. But what I want to remind you is right now, the way that we're interpreting most of the legislation that's been filed, our bottom line on the finance end does not change because of the formula transition grant. So if we increase one thing, we're decreasing the formula transition grant, but our bottom line, as far as the funding that we receive next year based on current law or new law, we have not seen anything that would change that bottom line for us. Now, it may change the requirements that we have to meet, but not the overall funding. And again, what I mentioned before, what it could change is that funding cliff that you're going into the very next year, potential funding cliff with formula transition grant, and the potential that may actually get extended. And any increase, say the basic allotment increases to $50 that one of them had mentioned, right? So our funding's gonna shift, and we're gonna have more funding beside the formula and less than the formula transition grant. As that formula transition grant number lessens and it gets closer to zero, then the potential for a funding cliff for us drops off, right? So even if it doesn't get extended, anything that happens next year, a lower amount of the amount of our money that comes in that formula transition grant is a good thing for us for that next year. And if it does get extended to 29, 30, or any other year, the lower that amount stays for us, the less of a funding cliff that we hit when that amount actually goes away. Because at some point it will drop off. Right now, our biggest push is that gets extended. So that's where House Bill 100 with that party now on the transition grant extension is very important for our district. Okay, the enrollment attendance. So the spring demographic report, as Dr. Wright just went over, for the numbers that we're looking at, and budget bid have not changed from the fall, so we just updated from fall to spring. We aren't doing a change. We are currently budgeting based on the average of the two. Just taking the middle of them and looking at what that will do for next year for funding. We're still hitting budgeting between the 95 and 96% attendance rate. We seem to be hitting that this year. We aren't really getting back up closer to 97%, but we are doing good, trending around 95, 96%. So that's what we're aiming at for a look next year. So again, taxable assessed values, we are expecting those to come in the first look at the end of this month. The market was still very strong all through last year. It started trending a little bit downwards as far as the number of closings. I think y'all saw that in the demographic report in quarter 4, but we had strong first 3 quarters. Still is a really strong quarter 4, just not as strong as the other 3, but we had quite a bit of value growth. There are quite a few new builds out there, so we are expecting our values to increase. And so we are budgeting right now on a 12% preliminary budget increase for that. But remember, we hit over 25% last year, so I don't see us hitting that number again. But in some of the talks with the appraisal district, we feel like we should have, still a fairly strong increase for next year. Now, again, any legislation may potentially change that, but that's what we're budgeting on right now. And you saw this slide, last month. Again, it's just if you look, how much that trend has grown and that our value is, how quickly it's growing over the last several years. Back in 16-17, we were just barely over 1.5 billion, and we're now this year we hit over 4 billion. So that's some significant growth for us on the taxable assessed value. Tax rate information. So what I can tell you right now is based on current law. Nothing changed. It looks like we would hit somewhere around a 7-cent decrease on M&O based on required compression. That's currently in law. So if any additional compression is built into law, that could go down a little bit further. Our INS rate remains at 50 cents, and it should remain at 50 cents for the next several years. I think we've talked about that through our bond sales and everything else. So 50 cents is the max on that, and we don't see potential for that decreasing at this point. There's a couple of deadlines in there. Some information, once we receive our values, then we have to turn in the local property value to EA by August 1st. They have till August 5th to get us information back, and that's where we go through and try and work towards our August meeting date. Okay, just again, a reminder of our tax rate and how it has trended down, and we hope to see that continue to trend down based on current law, and hopefully a little bit more, and find some relief for our taxpayers through legislation. Again, just a reminder of formula transition grant and how important it is for us. And I believe when we talked last month, we just found out after I'd already published my document that the proration was back up to 100%, so it looked like we would get all of our money for this year again. That could change between now and the end of the school year, and we'll continue to monitor that, but that's where we're at this point in time. And again, House Bill 100, tell you that over and over again. If we can monitor that and look through that and have a chance to talk to your representatives, that's very important to us.
And so just to clarify on the proration amount, it was 100, then it went to 60%?
Well, we started the year with an estimate of around 95%.
Okay.
Somewhere in early February, after they looked at the statewide property values that came out at the end of January, the estimate went down to about 65%.
Okay.
And then now they've taken in the actual, they've worked in the number of students that were from our PEMS in the fall across the state. And so now that number's jumped back up, and we are at 100% right now. So that number's going to fluctuate. What we want it to end up is closer to 100% at the end of the year to benefit us. Okay, so ESSER funding cliff. As I mentioned earlier, this is something that I added to this month. If you'll remember in our talks from last year in developing our budget, we have required parts that we have to talk about and that we have to prove that we talked about in budget development. And one of those now is called the ESSER funding cliff and the potential for an ESSER funding cliff. And so this is just a slide that I took from one of the TEAs, and how that you can see with the, they got the different ESSER funding in there. I believe ESSER 3 is the green there. You'll see in 21-22 and 22-23, and how when that ESSER funding goes away, that your overall funding may decrease, and that if you added if you didn't add single one-use funding single one-use expenditures with that funding, if you did any type of staff or salaries or anything like that, ongoing issues that we have to be able to fund that either out of fund balance or reclassify our expenditures and somehow be able to bring that back into a balanced budget. So for us, it's not the ESSER 3, because if you remember, we've got only about $300,000 of ESSER 3, and that was last year. For our district, it is ESSER supplemental, and we have a little over $1 million in that this year. And so that is part of our budget work for next year, is that we've got to incorporate that into our current expenditures in the general fund and still bring that in budget. So that is something that we've known for, since we received the ESSER supplemental. It's something that's been planned and what we are working on. But it is in our slide, and we are talking about our required component of the potential funding cliff here for the ESSER fund. All right, so a little bit of a look at our general fund revenue. So this is a look since 1819 at what our general fund revenue has been and how it's increased. And the way that increases is with our student growth and our student population growth. So we're funding on the amount per student there. So you can see in 18-19, we were just under 29 million. 19-20, just under 34 million. 20-21, we jumped to just under 39 million. 21-22, we hit just under 43 million. And then 22-23 and 23-24 are a little bit different shapes because those are still estimates. We won't have a definite number on our 22-23, of course, until we end the year. But right now, what we have estimated there is just over 49 million, and we're estimating next year under current law to be at 55.5 million. So you can see as our student numbers grow, our revenue goes up along with that. We haven't changed any of our budget considerations. Again, personnel is our largest percent of our overall budget, and as our student population grows, we need additional teachers, we need additional staff, and so every time that those student numbers come in, we need to be looking at what staff goes along with that, what teachers in the classroom, what support staff, what campus staff, everywhere in the district that the staffing requirements may need to increase to go along with that. We still need to look at our substitute staffing. Is it cost of substitutes? How to bring in more substitutes to be able to fill those classrooms? Our custodial costs, utilities, those are going to expand for the 6th grade center. And then we're working on our campus and department requests right now. We're going to go over until, I believe they have until the first week in May to finalize those and get any additional requests that they feel like they want to implement in their campus or department that's beyond their allocation, and what they can handle in their department. And of course, we all know the inflation factor is still there, and we're all still seeing that, regardless of whether it's in the school or whether in your personal or in your own business. We see that every day. So again, the budget outlook hasn't changed. We're working towards a balanced budget. We want to maintain a 3-month operating fund balance. We have set aside funding and then working for a balanced budget to be able to propose an increase in compensation plan. Again, we're working on monitoring the school finance legislation, and we'll have that board budget workshop in May. And a little bit about our M&O fund balance. So when we're talking about a 3-month operating fund balance, that keeps us around 25%. So you can see a history there. Starting with 15-16, what our fund balance was and the percent of expenditures there. And so you'll see that that percentage has trended, well, went up with 16-17, and then it's gone down a little bit there. And we're sitting at 28% as of the end of this past fiscal year. And so our goal is to stay at least at 25%, and that's what we're working towards. And again, as we've talked about, as our budget increases, the amount in fund balance needs to increase to enable to maintain that 25%. So we will talk about a plan when we have our workshop of how much we might need to have a line item for fund balance to make that happen. All right, do you have any questions? Thank y'all.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10A as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. McDade, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Okay, Dr.
Dr.
Ruggles is
Henry.
going to talk about this transfer of money from one area to another.
Okay, so we currently have some money budgeted for contracted LSSP services, that stands for Licensed Specialists in School Psychology, which are our psychologists that work in the special ed department. And really, this was actually a position, I think, 2 years ago that we had difficulty filling, because LSSPs are very hard to come by these days. And so to ensure that we could staff it, we ended up using some contracted service folks. The advantage of doing that is that we were able to get some people in to do the work that we needed done. The disadvantage is it's a little more costly, it's more expensive. So we think that based on growth, it's time to go back and pound the pavement and try to get a full-time employee in here for about the same cost as we have budgeted for anywhere from a half to a 3/4 time person. So that's what this request is.
So, but the full-time employee, we're gonna, all the extra pay, you take that into consideration too, not the salary.
Right,
but the-
benefits and such, right, yes, yeah, it'll be, depending on how many years of experience, if we found somebody, how many years of experience they had, you know, conceivably could be marginally higher than what we budgeted, currently, right? Of course, we'd be getting a full-time instead of a part-time. But it shouldn't be significantly greater than that number there.
Is the part-time enough at this point, or do we?
It's something you asked, but no, I don't think so, especially like they're serving, you know, the ones we have serve over 100 kids, and next year we think the number will be probably around 130, but that's just kind of the kids who get services, you know, who get some type of intervention on a every few weeks, or a counseling service, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing they're doing is going to the ARD meetings. They're doing all of the like autism assessments, all of the emotional and psychological assessments on the students for eligibility purposes, meeting with parents, consulting with teachers, and writing up the evaluations. So it's just as the theme is growth, and so they're stretched pretty thin.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
And this is really mostly about moving the money out of contracted services and making this person
An
an
employee.
employee.
Yeah.
And it's just something y'all are planning for when you're building your budget for next year.
Mhm.
I mean, they're already spending almost that.
We're
in
spending it
contract.
anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, we're spending the money, we're just
Yes.
putting it
It's just
into a different, into an
making them a
employee
district
rather than
employee.
a contracted person.
So you're spending equal or just maybe a tad more to go from a half-time person to a full-time person?
Mhm.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think maybe 6,200 to 10,800 is what we think.
And you expect to be able to fill it, unlike past years.
I hope so.
Okay.
We'll do our best.
Is our contract person interested in a full-time position?
She's retired.
Ah. Don't mess with her.
She's great, done a great job, years of experience.
Yeah.
So, but we probably do need a full-time person. We do.
Gotcha.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10B as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Matthew Slayton, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Josh Westrom, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Similar situation here is that we were able to add a position last year to accommodate for growth, and we thought it would be easier to staff it for at least that first year with an intern. And we did successfully, right? But we want to change that. The plan was to change it back this year, if we could, with your approval, back to an LSSP, right? Having had an intern fill it during the current year. And the reason, again, the advantage was having somebody that we could plug in and put in that position and get it staffed, right? And use it as a way to hopefully lead into a full-time position. Of course, we still have to create a position, open it up, have people apply, you know, but at least like, we know that at least one person will apply, the current intern. And keeping it as an intern is untenable, especially with fast growth, because it would be a different person every single year, right? So there's lots of cost in training them. They can't do quite as much as an experienced person could. There's lots of supervision. It places an extra demand on the LSSPs that we do have employed here. So again, it's one of those things that got us through the year. We'd like to kind of go back to normal for next year and get it back as a regular position instead of an internal position.
So this is essentially adding another half, so you're increasing your staff by one between the two.
Right, so this is adding, the intern is here full-time, but because they're an intern, their salary is adjusted, you know, downward, right? So it's
Right.
about half of a
So
full-time
you'd be
person.
eliminating the intern position completely?
Correct, in establishing just a regular, another full-time position, it's just not an intern, it's a fully licensed, fully fledged position, right? So, so yes, there is the halftime kind of increase in people, but at least on the contract side, that doesn't go up a half on the salary side.
Gotcha.
This one does, that one doesn't.
Okay.
So I just, so now we'll have our one licensed specialty psychologist. And wouldn't that make the intern program even more powerful?
Well, so we already have two, so we have two employees, full-time, fully licensed, right? And then we have the intern, and then we have the contract, right?
So now we'll have.
And Dr. Ruggles, for clarification, intern here is postgraduate. This is a temporary license, so they've completed school, and this is their temporary license, working on their hours to become fully licensed.
That is correct.
Right, so it's not like a unpaid intern. I'm
Right.
just
Well,
clarifying.
I'm just trying to think, why not take advantage of that system, provide somebody an opportunity, and also save money on the long-term budget?
And I think that is a good aspiration, right? I've done that in the past and worked with that in the past, and it's a great program. I think right now, with the fast growth and just the mental health needs that we're seeing, that we're gonna have to, I think we need the fully licensed people at this point, and revisit. The other reason I like doing it is because you maintain good relationships with universities, that they're always a great resource and a great partner. I think it's gonna be hard to, sustain and implement right now under the current conditions with mental health needs plus fast growth.
So to meet the needs of our kids and to meet the needs of the growth, you're requesting a fully licensed person versus a temporary licensed person.
Correct, which is kind of what the position started as when it was created.
So you'd wind up with 4 full LSSPs?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions for Dr. Ruggles?
Do they take some assessments off the diagnosticians as they can, assuming?
Yes,
Or they?
yeah, they can, right, because they can
or
also
each
do
other?
the IQ achievement test, cognitive
Right.
achievement test, so certainly they can do that.
Okay.
They can pick up, they can run some ARDs if they need to.
Right.
And serve as the assessment person, so that's definitely helpful.
And how many DIACs do we have?
We have 6.
6, okay.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10C as presented.
So moved.
Motion approved by Dr. McDade. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Matthew Slayton, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ruggles.
Okay, this is a recommendation to add these staff positions. High school currently has 1 family and consumer science teacher, but high school needs 2. And right now, in the fall of '23, these 2 teachers are going to have to rotate into that kitchen that we have at Cameron Falls. But when the second high school opens and we transition to 2, we have a fully functioning family and consumer science lab at 377. So one of the teachers can move to 377 at that time. So that's the add of a full position. Law enforcement needs 4 periods next year rather than 2. And right now we've got a 0.5 by saying that you're teaching 2 classes and then have a conference. So by adding 0.5 to the position, that's currently 2 periods. Middle school can also offer a period of law enforcement. So we could have 4 at high school and 1 at middle school. Currently, the police officer's a 0.5 officer, so add 0.5 to the position to make it 1.0 officer. And then the officer would be full-time. So you'd end up with 5 full-time officers, and then you would have the 2 family and consumer science positions, and then your law enforcement your teacher goes from 0.5 to 1.0. Fit and Wise will not be funding any part of the teacher trainer for 23-24. I brought a letter to share a brief part of that with you. Decatur Hospital Authority, which is known as Wise Health System and Argyle Independent School District, entered into an athletic training services agreement effective August 1st of 2019. Wise Health Service is undergoing a number of restructuring changes which require evaluation of their existing operations and contracts. WHS has determined that one required change is that it can no longer continue employing athletic trainers to place within school districts. WHS therefore provides this written notice pursuant to paragraph 2 of the agreement of termination of the agreement effective July 31, 2023 at the end of the agreement's current term. WHS has truly appreciated its relationship with Argyle AISD and hopes to continue to find ways to offer services to your student athletes, even though our particular athletic training relationship has come to an end. So we've been paying most of the salary for this person except what Fit and Wise was paying, and we'll have to pick up the pay differential for the teacher trainer that Fit and Wise has been paying. So roll on down, Josh, please. So the budget impact for these positions that I'm requesting is $159,000 from M&O from the 23-24 budget. And I've broken that down into the 22.5K for the Fit and Wise differential, the 35K on the police officer, and then the 102K on the teacher and the part of the police law enforcement instructor that's teacher. I recommend the addition of 1.5 teachers, a 0.5 police officer, and the pay differential for the teacher trainer that Fit and Wise has been paying. So that's my recommendation to you to approve this. $159,000 for these positions.
So what happens with Officer Davis then? Does he become?
Officer Davis would be a 1.0 police officer. He would not be teaching. He would be working as a police officer.
So you will have to find somebody to teach the class.
Yes.
For 4 periods.
Yes, but I have good leads on that.
Okay.
And you need to add, because there's student interest.
Yes, correct.
I mean, that's what's driving
Because
it, right?
that is correct. Because every year we've been adding a pathway, and we added engineering. Of course, we've had health science for a while, but we added law enforcement, and we added it with 2 classes, and now we've got enough for 4 classes.
Is there any opportunity to establish a relationship with someone else other than Fit and Wise?
We're looking into that, but doubtful. But we're looking into it. But this pay differential, we're already paying, this person that we have is already teaching health science for us, and we're already paying that, and we're already paying Fit and Wise, and we're paying a stipend. So the pay differential is only about $22,500. That's how much extra we have to pick up on this one. We've got another trainer that is also employed by Fit and Wise that we're going to have to work through.
Well, my understanding is y'all are working on next year's budget pretty hard.
Definitely.
And this is one of the priorities you're thinking that we need to make is to commit $159,000 out of next year's budget to fill these spots.
Yes, that's correct. And then you have to keep in mind also that the Family and Consumer Science is a K class, so we get weighted funding on that.
Okay. Good.
Is it law enforcement also?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yes, correct.
Good.
Is there any other questions for Dr. Wright?
So you're saying Officer Davis would go to full-time officer
Correct.
at South or wherever?
That's to be determined.
Yeah.
One of the things that is to be determined is whether we are required to have 6 next year. Because, see, one of these bills has that you have to have an officer at every campus, which will be hard to enforce statewide, but we don't, right now we're at 5. We don't have that 6th position right now.
Okay. Okay.
But see, like this year, the officer who was at Hilltop was going over to GAP, and checking on them every day. We had, South only had a person half-time when Officer Davis, this is the way Officer Davis's day went. He started at South and he did the early morning at South. Then he came here and taught 2 classes. Then he went back to South for the rest of the day. So South didn't have coverage while he was teaching at high school.
So am I in the right direction thinking that 1 officer per campus would be an unfunded mandate maybe?
That would be a term that I would use. I doubt that the legislature would term it that
Right,
way, but that would
understood.
be a term that I would use it.
Okay.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10D as presented.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Western, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hawksworth, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
This is not much more than a name change, but we've been teaching.
Oh, it's more, Dr. Wright, than just a name change.
I want it to be.
It's more than just a name change.
But right now, we've got a dance class at middle school and a drill team prep at middle school. And there's a lot of interest in converting the drill team prep class to a drill team class. But really, there's not going to be any elimination of any of the girls that want to do it or anything like that. Now, in 24-25, Haley Martinez wants to have a tryout process, but in 23-24, everyone will be accepted into the class. And they will have uniforms, which is a big, I think they enjoy having the uniforms, but the parents will pay for those, but the performances will be limited to 4 non-traveling middle school games. So it's not going to really change what's happening, except that they'll be called the drill team and except that they'll have those performance times and they'll get to be in uniforms, but they're not going to be eliminated. So we're looking at ways to increase participation and opportunity for these middle school students. It won't cost any extra money.
It sure will. It'll cost Mr. Slayton some more money.
It will not cost Argyle Independent School District money, but it will cost the parents money. But we will find a way for those parents who can't afford it to still have girls in drill team.
I just got, why does this require board approval, just out of curiosity?
Well, people ask me that when I said I wanted to put this on the agenda. I was asked that multiple times.
Okay.
Why do you think that's a board action item? The reason I think it's a board action item is you're sitting there at a middle school game and somebody goes, Mr. Westrom, I didn't know they had a middle school drill team now. And you go, guess what? I didn't either. We can't have that. I mean, it's enough of a major shift in the way people view drill team. It's a real middle school drill team. It's going to be a real drill team. And so I wouldn't want to have a middle school drill team without your knowing that we were having it.
Works for me.
I did, for the record,
I did get
ask
that question a lot, though.
I did ask Dr. Wright if I needed to recuse myself because I'm a little biased towards drill team, and she said no, I did not have to.
We're not eliminating anybody. They're all getting in if they sign up. So I couldn't see any reason he would need to recuse himself.
You just want to go back all those years for pre-K?
No.
No.
Hey, since I'm not getting my pre-K funded in retro, so.
All right, Matthew. That's good.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve action item 10E as presented.
So moved.
Ooh, I'm giving that to Mr. Matthew Slayton. Who's got the second?
I got it.
Mr. Deffenbaugh with the second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
F and G are Dr. Stevers.
Yes.
Okay, so this is in regards to map testing. So as I'm sure you remember, I brought iStation to you. we have, ever since I've been here, I've had requests from teachers and administrators for MAP, and in lieu of iStation. And in the past, it has not been financially feasible. It was so much more expensive than iStation. It wasn't a fiscally responsible choice. But with the increased cost of iStation and not an increase with MAPS, it now has become very financially feasible. And even though, so you remember that this is out of IMA funds, so it doesn't affect the overall district budget. However, there's about almost a $20,000 difference in costs. So after we've compiled this information, meeting with my curriculum specialist, my 2 curriculum specialists, my instructional services coordinator, the 4 principals that it affects, 3 reading specialists, our 3 reading specialists on campuses throughout the district, 3 math specialists. It is our recommendation that we use this in lieu of iStation.
I'm embarrassed to say that when I read through this, I thought this is something to do with the demographics, with the MAP
Right.
growth.
No,
I didn't know what that stands for, but apparently it stands for mental assess. What does it stand for?
No, it stands for Measures of Academic Progress. So we're looking at MAP growth. It is reading and math. That is it. So standards related to reading and math. So there's not, at least the part that we're purchasing or looking at purchasing, there's nothing related to SEL.
Okay, so because that was my concern for Ms. Linehan. So you're saying there's no social measurements or
Correct.
or psychological measurements or anything else that's part of a database
Correct.
in this case?
But there are other parts to this that if you purchased it could be? Or
I'm not
hard to
sure. I
say?
haven't. I mean, we're not looking for
At
that.
that.
So I can't speak to whether the company has, SEL programs or not. But this program, MAP Growth, is related to the part that we're looking at purchasing, K through 8, reading and math assessments. So it allows our teachers to assess the standards, and it gives them back the information and provides them information related to student growth.
And so you're saying your curriculum specialists have been wanting this program
Yes.
in the past, but you didn't think we could necessarily afford it at that time?
Right. It was so much more expensive than what we were using at the time, and
And
now
why
really
is it
that-
better than what iStation?
It's the assessment piece of it is better, and the information that it provides our teachers after the assessment, as far as any gaps that a student may have, or gaps that they have, anything that they need to close. It gives them information on where to go next with their instruction, basically.
And it's widely used in other school districts?
It is widely used in other school districts. So in regions 9, 10, and 11 alone, there are 109 districts that use MAP.
And how many districts are in there total? In 9, 10, and 11?
There's 78 in Region 11.
So it's focused on just the reading, assessment of reading, writing, et cetera.
So they have reading, math, and there's also a science component. We're just looking at the reading and math right
Okay.
now.
And you're saying that this actually will save us nearly $20,000 to our
Correct.
current iStation?
Correct.
Dr. Stever, it tracks it by individual student or by the district or by a classroom? How specific is the information they collect? And then how is that information used by the district?
Right, so the information they collect is only the information we give them, right? So, yes, it has to be by student.
Right.
I guess what we're trying to, not to put words in your mouth, but and not to use too big of words than what they are, but data mining on our students'
Absolutely.
intellectual property.
Absolutely, and think that we share the same conservative views in regards to unnecessarily giving data. We would never intentionally share data that was unnecessary to get the information we need.
So you have the ability to tailor the assessment and the
Absolutely.
questions? Okay.
Yes.
So I reached out to Dr. Stieber earlier today about this. I had some concerns, many of the ones that you guys are expressing. I asked her if there was a reason to do this tonight, or could we take some time and dig into this a little more just to make sure that we're doing the right thing. I obviously trust Dr. Stieber and the curriculum specialist, but this is a big topic for us now. And so she did tell me that the contract probably isn't valid after 30 days.
Well, the quote wouldn't be
Quote.
valid.
Okay.
The quote wouldn't be valid, and also, like, we have to use something, right? So, I mean, we're currently using iStation. We're looking to use this in lieu of iStation, but we have to use something. We have to provide a universal screener, those kinds of things. We have to use something.
Is the information that we collect on students with iStation going to be the same information we're collecting with MAP? Or are they different?
Yeah.
No, it would not be different.
Okay.
Is that because we give the input on what we want? Or is it just the
Right, we only give what
program
is
itself?
absolutely necessary
Mm-hmm.
so that we get the product, right? I mean, we only give what is absolutely necessary. So they do, any of these programs that we use do not just have unfettered access to our student data.
So do the parents get to see the questions and the answers in these assessments?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for NWEA or MAP as far as what they would allow to see. I would say, I would assume that there would be a concern for validity of an assessment. So, like, for example, I think if you reached out to College Board and said, I want to see the questions and answers for my child on the ACT, I don't know what they would say. I would imagine they would say no, that their tests are protected, just to protect the validity.
Well, Dr. Steele, when you said you have to have something to fill some requirement, or you have to have something because it's that important to help. Like, does each student, does somebody sit down and go over it with what you found about that student and help them? Is it a teaching tool that you help them in their depth? Like, do you talk about it one-on-one with each student, or the students that need help? Or I'm not familiar how this works.
Right. So the first part of your question: are we required?
Yeah.
So, kind of yes to both of those. So, is it something our teachers need? Absolutely, it's something our teachers need. We are required at certain grade levels to use a universal screener for reading. Then anytime we're looking at placing a child or looking at RTI, which is another requirement for students, we have to use a universal screener to create a baseline. And so this serves both of those purposes.
And so that requirement is, I think you told me it's a TEA requirement?
The universal screener part, yes.
And does that have, Dr. Wright, does that have anything to do with that I was reading today about the teacher incentive allotment and how teachers are using MAP to help increase their distinctions and receiving additional pay, which I think is amazing, and I love that opportunity.
Mhm.
Is us not having MAP part of what is not allowing us to qualify for the TIA?
No, that's not keeping us from qualifying for participating in TIA, no.
Okay, that's a region decision.
I don't know that we would,
This
no,
is
that
not
wouldn't keep
connected
us
to
from being
teacher
a
incentive
TIA.
allotment. I mean,
If you
No.
read in here, it is. I mean, they tell you that's how you can make,
I guess-
the TIA will pay these teachers significant money if they will qualify using MAP at different levels.
Right, so I
Well,
believe
that's
it's a
probably
local
helping,
decision to
but
determine.
you could get TIA without that.
There's different ways you can qualify teachers to get that money.
It doesn't
So there
have
may
to
be
be
districts
through
that
MAP,
use
right?
this for
But
that
you're
purpose.
saying it's a local
Districts that use
decision
star testing
for
that
certain
purpose,
districts
that would be a local
to
decision.
incentivize
You
teachers
set up
to
your
use this.
TIA the way you want it set up. Different districts set it up different ways.
Okay. I just, this is where I'm going. There's a lot of questions for us, and it's a big topic right now. And, you know, parental rights and all. For me, I'm one of 7 up here. I would just ask that maybe, I want to give our teachers the tools to succeed. I do. I want our parents to have the right to see the information that their kids are being presented with. I love the fiscal responsibility part. I just think maybe we need to table it and dig a little deeper. I don't want us to lose our proposal. So if that means we have to do some, I mean, again, can't speak for everybody, but I'm willing to come up here and dig in and learn more, and do a special meeting or whatever to pass.
But what am I concerned about here? Like, what data am I concerned about them collecting?
From what I've been able to read since the agenda came out on Friday is that it's capturing your data. It's asked, there's parts of it, at least what I was able to read on the MAP website, is it's asking your students, hey, are you ready to learn today? And if you're not, I mean, that's directly tied to SEL. So there are plenty of people that are saying, even in our district, right, we've had people that are asking that question, are you ready to learn today? And it asks you to respond at different levels of, are you ready to learn?
We don't have to use that.
No, this
This is not that.
No, this is not that. I know if there is a program by the same company that does that, I don't know. But this is not that. This is not collecting SEL information. It's specifically related to standards, TEKS.
Didn't all of the specialists at the 3 elementaries,
Unanimously.
the math specialists, didn't they all endorse this, and the elementary
Unanimously.
principals?
Yes.
Yeah, I will kind of counter your request. I would suggest we don't extend this because I appreciate the concern that was brought up about the potential misuse of data, but you give me reassurances that this data is very focused on the academic criteria, and that's how we're going to use
Absolutely.
it. And we're using similar model anyway, and this happens to be less expensive, and the curriculum is asking for it.
Sure, and I hope that all of you know this. I or my department would never come up here and make a recommendation that would bring harm to a child. Never.
Actually,
Or their families.
I would back that statement up 100%. I think the only question for clarity is, it's not your intentions, but you are using a third-party system. And the question really is, are you completely confident that even data that you're not using, somehow the system is collecting and doing even without your knowledge or authorization?
That's a great question. So we have things in place to prevent that. So this does not connect directly with our PEMS software. We have filters in place so this gets only what we send to them. Like we send them, any information that they would need for us to be able to, successfully use this product. So it does not connect with our PEMS management system. They can't access it. And then they have a pretty in-depth privacy policy that the data that they do get from us is kept only long enough to fulfill the obligations of their contract. And then once that is done, we can ask them to destroy any information that they have.
I just want to clarify, I never would think that our teachers or our curriculum specialist or you or anybody else in this district would do something to harm a child. It's the companies I don't trust. So.
And I just need, if a curriculum specialist, you're recommending it, the campus principals, the math specialist, and it's a 1-year subscription, saving us money. I don't have enough. I need someone to sit here and go, no, this is what MAP is doing. They're gathering this data. This is specific examples of where they're doing things with data to track kids, and I just don't have it. I don't have
I don't know
any
they're going to make it
specifics.
available to you to have. I don't know that they're gonna make it available.
Well, I
to
know,
you.
but I would need specific examples.
To already get this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I think the clarification piece is who, does the company have all the information that you gather, or just you have it in control? They support you, you do with it what you want, you destroy it when you want, or do they have as equal access to everything you have that you have, because they are the company that?
Absolutely not.
They don't?
No.
Yeah, so you are in control of the information.
Right, yes. No, they don't have access to all the information that we have, absolutely not.
They're just providing the platform.
Yes.
That's
Basically,
very
there's a
very
Well, no,
good.
they have
There's
access to
test
the
questions.
kids' answers, but they don't have access to all the other data behind the.
Right,
the
right, so
child.
they have access to the kids' answers. So what we need from them is, we need to know that how a child scored on a test. And that's what they have.
And it's TEKS related. They can tell what TEK they need to work on.
So what other questions, and you guys obviously have looked at it, I mean, what other questions, if any, do they ask the students besides, let's say, on the math question? What other questions are in there? Is there anything introductory? Is there anything?
For the math assessment, there's math test and questions.
But nothing of a SEL personal kind of nature or anything like that?
We would not choose a program
Understood.
that asked SEL questions in a math assessment, or an English assessment, or a science assessment, or a social studies assessment. We would not condone using a program
Right.
that
Oh,
asks
and I believe that.
questions
I'm just-
when we're purchasing a math assessment.
Right.
That's all we want, is a math assessment or a reading assessment.
Are you saying there's programs actually out there that do that?
Ms. Wilson, I'm sure there are.
Okay.
We don't subscribe to that philosophy, or that we would not,
Yeah.
so, maybe there are, but, we haven't been looking, for
Okay.
any, so I'm not sure.
Ms. Linehan, with a yes or no answer, are there programs out there?
I'm sorry, I was looking.
Okay.
That,
Ask Ms. Linehan your question, Mr. Westrom, and just a
Are
yes
there
or no
programs
answer.
out there that you know that are gathering data on SEL and data on children?
what you have to understand with these computer programs is that they are adaptive. And so the teacher is not in control of what the assessment is. So the data that's being created in taking the assessment, the assessments are adaptive, so the child can, his values, beliefs, and behaviors can be modified through the curriculum. I would like to know, have you seen the assessments? Are you in control? Does the teacher
Am I answering
see-
questions from the
John,
Yeah,
audience?
it's,
You tell me
it's
how-
action, yeah, you can talk.
If, yes,
Discussion.
but can those
I'm just asking.
assessments be modified?
Sorry,
So
Archie,
they're
I was just
fluid.
asking.
You and the teachers are not controlling the assessments.
Okay.
The computer software program.
You said yes or no.
Yeah.
Our
Okay.
teachers are not writing the questions, right, that's why we're asking to
But,
purchase
but
those.
like they said earlier,
I mean,
it's
if you're
computation.
right, so,
It's-
yeah, so if you're asking, like, for example, if, one of the things the program does, if a child is just click, 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 if they don't see value in the click, click, it stops them and alerts the teacher. You might wanna check and make sure they're on task. I have zero knowledge of it asking any questions related to, are you ready to learn today? How are you feeling? Nothing like that. It's math standards,
Okay.
reading standards, science. social studies.
And I think it's fair to say that if something started coming up in that you would know,
Of course.
teachers would know, and something we could evaluate and look at.
So,
Absolutely.
so if you're like evaluating fourth grade math, are you aware as teachers, principals, what those questions are that are going to be asked? do they change every time, or are they different for every student? Or is it a pretty standardized assessment?
I'm not sure I'm following your question. I mean,
Well, in other words, I mean, if the word adaptive has
are you
been thrown
saying
out there.
for a standard, do they just ask one question? I would assume no, there are gonna be multiple questions. And is it adaptive? Yes, if a child, because in order for it to tell us what level the child is, it has to be adaptive. So if I'm taking a test and I answer correct, it takes me to the next level, and then the next, and the next. But if I answer it wrong, you know, it might ask me a few more on this standard to see if I understand that.
Right.
And or, you know, it will butt me back, it will butt me down, so it can, so the information the teacher gets is an accurate level of where the
Understood.
child is at.
Okay, no, I get that.
Can I
Okay.
take it?
Yes.
Okay. I just.
We
I'd be
just-
curious.
Can I see his results?
And you can share the results.
yes.
Listen,
The
I
next
want to
meeting.
clarify one more time. It's not you guys that I don't trust.
No, not at all.
It's the system. So if you guys are comfortable with it, and many of your kids have been in these schools or are in these schools,
Mhm.
then that's good enough for me. I just wanted to. It is. There's a lot of people I don't trust. So.
Yeah,
I
mhm.
completely understand. I would not want my child's data unnecessarily collected. You know, but when I go to the doctor, I know I have to give them their name, right? I have to
Right.
give them some information, their age,
Right. Okay.
you know, so they can give me the services that I'm paying for.
Mhm.
It's only what they need and nothing else.
I mean, I know before the age of computers and stuff, when we did everything more pen and paper, there were tests that, I mean, for me personally, that I would give, or even as a diagnostician, that, you know, you're testing a child, and if they get to a certain point, you can adapt and switch it, and either, what's the word I'm looking for? That you establish that is their baseline, or that is their spot, and it's a strong place, rather than keep taking them someplace where they're gonna get really frustrated, and so there's a base and there's a ceiling. I mean, it's the same thing, it's just now they're doing it on computer, but when we used to do it a little differently. Well, I actually did both ways, but I do remember back when it was different, and you control that yourself as the examiner, so. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's just that adaptive word gets murky.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10F as presented.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Deffenbaugh, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Westrum, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Dr.
Thank you,
Stever,
Dr. Stever.
I think I'm next.
Thank you.
she got one more.
Appreciate the input.
Thank you.
One more.
This one can't.
Okay, so the next, so if you'll remember, those of you that were on the board 2 years ago, we submitted a waiver to TEA to limit the number of foreign exchange students. And so if you remember back to that discussion, it's specifically related to space and just financial hardship that it would create. So TEA allows you to limit to no less than 5, so you can cap it at 5. And so the waiver is a 2-year waiver, and it will expire at the end of this year. So we are asking you to approve a waiver again, renew the waiver for 2 more years.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action on 10G as presented.
Motion to approve.
All right, Mr. Westrum, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hawksworth, second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, welcome back. The good thing is we've talked about storm shelters before, so.
Yes, we have. So this item, this is requesting approval of the funds for our third-party storm shelter review, which is part of the latest edition of the ICC 500 storm shelter code. So this requires the owner to hire a third-party independent design professional to review the design of the storm shelter. So this is requesting $21,000 for those services, includes 2 reviews and then the final certified stamp report that will be required by the jurisdiction for the issue permits.
I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10H as presented.
So moved.
Dr. McDade, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Matthew Slayton, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
All right, this item is one that we discussed last week. So this is the basis of what we would turn into amendment number 2 to our guaranteed, to our contract for elementary 4. This will become part of our guaranteed maximum price, as will amendment number 1 when we get to that point and bring that to you. But this would be an approval of some dollars that take care of the early expenses on the project, so that as soon as we're able to start, there'd be no delays. So this would include things like our site setup, moving in our construction trailer, setting up our fences, our stormwater protection. It also includes allowances, is what we're calling them, for our early trades, if we're able to get in there and start some grading early, possibly some underground utilities. So that approval covers this without having to wait to come back to you for another board meeting or schedule a special board meeting, just to try to minimize those delays, so we can make up all of the time possible.
I mean, you could theoretically have a full month's head start, right, by doing it now?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't mean we're $33,691,000 over budget.
It does not mean that. It does not mean that this particular scope of approval will ultimately cost us that amount either. It could be less, it could be more.
But the
it
number
will
you
all settle out in the final
The number you throw out is just do the work.
This just allows me to do the work without having to wait.
And the number you come back for the full GMP is going to be $3.691 million less than originally.
Well, we'll approve this.
No, it'll be included.
It'll be part of that.
Yeah.
It'll be part of it.
You're
The
just-
dollars may move around because we'll now have defined costs for the site work, for the earthwork, for the utilities.
Okay.
But all of these dollars would be in that final.
This is,
I think it makes a lot of sense, Jerry.
yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So, appreciate it, Jeff.
Sure.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10I as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Dr. John Bitter
Made my
with
last
a
one.
motion to approve.
He
Do I have a
can
second?
do the rest of it.
Yeah, okay, hey, I mean, don't cut me off so soon.
Do I have a second?
Second. He's second, isn't he?
Mr. Matthew Slayton with the second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Can I take a restroom break and give you the gavel for a little bit?
Carry on.
Okay, all right.
I didn't bang the final gavel.
I'll let him do it. I mean, that's fine. We'll let him adjourn it. All right.
The rest of the agenda. Just about.
Almost.
Almost.
One or two at the end.
Here we go, Joe.
Okay, this item, this was, again, one of the things we did discuss last week, and this has been shared with our BOC committee, to which we received some feedback, basically in agreement with what you see here. So this is requesting that we proceed with construction manager at risk procurement for elementary number 5, trying to think ahead, get ahead of that curve on the timeline. And a lot of the basis of this, has to do with building on a single site on the 50 acres that we have there off 407. So I think there's a lot of advantages to that. There's things that we could put in an RFQ to explore that with their responses. It could include plans for an elementary school because we know what this design is. It can also include an expanded list of fees and general condition costs that we may ask for in light of this being 2 schools in one request. We could also ask for areas areas that they feel we can save cost. Will be another way we can evaluate, the responses we're getting to see who's really looking at this and trying to work for us and give us the best we can for our dollars. So that's why we're bringing this recommendation to you. The thought process being issues with middle school number 1 as a single RFQ to hire a construction manager on both.
So, the middle school one, we've already approved CMAR, right?
Yes, we have.
And we have a construction manager?
We do not have a construction
Yeah.
manager. We have
This is
no
what allowed
RFQ.
us- So now if we do this on 5, and we thinking we're gonna build this on the same site at basically the same time, because middle school 1 is 27?
It's 25,
and then it's the
and
elementary
then
is
it's
26.
26 opening on the elementary, so there's definitely overlap.
So the expectation is we're gonna have the same CMAR construction manager for both.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Otherwise, you're doing one CSP and one CMAR. That'd be bad.
Well, potentially, I mean, we haven't asked for the method
Yeah.
Before today, but
But
yes,
that would be-
it could be a CSP method, it could
You have
be
two different-
a different method, we could wind up with 2 different contractors
On the same site.
on the same site.
Yeah, it'd be awkward.
Alright, any other questions for Jeff? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve action item 10J as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. McDade, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Jeff, not that we need a 4-hour meeting added to the schedule, but your workshop was very helpful last week, so
Yes, it was.
thank you for that.
Thank you. And I enjoyed presenting that and getting to have that conversation with you all.
See how easy this went?
Absolutely. I'm not done yet, though.
Your favorite one's next.
Not so fast.
So, the next one before you is requesting approval for Corgan as the architect for elementary number 5. Again, as discussed last week, thinking that we are building a efficient school when you look at the range of cost, and we are saving considerable expense on the design fees by approving Corgan to build the prototype again as number 5. Then we'll be able to have that design finished earlier for less cost than if we go out and look at a new design that we have not built before.
And I agree with you in that, from a timing perspective, we'll probably save about $1 to $1.2 million versus having to go out for a whole new design. But my fear is we don't know whether or not a different design could save us $5 million.
Right.
And so I would be comfortable with this if they tell us that they aren't necessarily married to the exact design, if they could do some tweaks that they thought would be more efficient for this cost.
And they will, they work with us, I mean, tweaks, it's making sure that, we define it the same as they do. But they have always worked with us to make changes from west to south.
But otherwise,
There wasn't any additional
they're
cost.
just saying, hey, I'm gonna dust off this blueprint and hand it to you, make it fit this geographical area. And other than that, I'm gonna charge you more.
So wait, so
No, it's
you're
more than
asking, you're asking if they'll redesign it for
No,
the same amount?
I'm saying the option to look at some of
Something
those.
else.
For the same amount?
Yeah.
They're not gonna
They're
look
not
at
gonna do
anything
that.
additionally without
Why would they
charging
do
you
that?
more.
They're creating a new school from scratch. Why would they do
Okay,
that?
well, then what I'm saying is, I'd almost rather spend another $1 million on architects if it saves me $5.
And how are they
somewhere.
gonna, we've had this, how are
Redesign.
they gonna guarantee it's gonna save you 5? Because they're not responsible for the cost per square foot.
I'm just saying, there might be
I
other
know, but-
architects out there that can build
but they're not
a more
responsible
efficient
for
building.
it.
I don't know.
But
But
they
isn't
could
there-
take the same design, there might be someone out there that could build it for less
But when we,
than another
and when
person,
we
but we
built
can't go off
west,
cost.
and we built south, I mean, those weren't considered the Taj Mahals of elementary schools or museums. I mean, they were
West was built for $226 a square foot.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, I don't think there's 5 million to cut. That's what they keep telling me, is like, when you compared it to cost per square foot at those times.
If we
The
wanna,
only way
if
you
we
can
wanna
get
revise
the-
it to
The only
clean
way
up
you
the
can get
wasted
this
square
building
feet.
down $5 million is to
Cut the
cut square footage.
If you wanna revise it to cut
To-
wasted
to
square feet,
redesign it.
okay. But if you're telling them, hey, is this the best design? Can you create a different design? The moment you say that, it's starting over, and it's
Right.
gonna be a lot more money.
But I don't think you were saying that word. You're saying, could you look at this plan and improve it to
Because
save
at the
costs,
meeting,
not
we
start
said,
over?
could you take off some square feet in the atrium or the
Okay,
entryway?
I agree with
And
that. I
got
think
told,
that's
well, they
different.
probably would lose that money because of the extra design fees. And I'm saying, if I'm paying you $1.3 million, you should be able to tweak something.
Yes, and they do,
That's
and they
a
will.
good point. What did
We've done
they?
it on every version since West.
Okay.
We've made,
What was
changes.
what was the cost on 4? What was their cost on 4? Do you know?
The architect's fee.
Architect, sorry.
It
It's like 1.4.
The architect's fee was the same as this fee.
Yeah.
The exact same as this fee.
Okay, so
So
we're not getting it, continuing to get efficient?
What's that?
We're not continuing to get efficient? Every other one, they've continued to come
Well,
down.
there was inflation between 4 and
Not
5.
for them. Like, they
4
already got it in their
We're talking
computer. It's a matter of hitting a
architect's
button and
fees,
print.
right?
Huh?
Architect's fee.
Yes.
Yes, they are charging us the same on 5 as we paid on 4. But it is also.
It's come down every
a couple
school,
of
has it
percent
not? Has it not come
less.
down since west, then south it came down.
I believe the answer is yes.
And
I'd have to
then,
go back
and
and
then
look.
4 came down
West and
from south,
But
but now we're paying the same on 5?
But now we've hit
their floor.
We've hit their floor.
And
Where's Keith?
So,
He's never
you
coming
know,
back.
I won't ask Mr. Henderson specifically, but this gives us a good opportunity with Pogue building our elementary 4, and you also built elementary 3 or south. If you can be very proactive at this point, letting us know what are some things we could tweak with this design to help out the construction costs for 5 and 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're already.
Sorry, you guys speaking to Mike. That's a Rick requirement.
And I don't need the specifics right now, but I just saying that would be something we could
But absolutely,
be helped
more
with.
than willing to work, and we've already started doing that with Jeff and Corrigan, so that's the service we want to offer from all our departments, for pre-con and our operations.
But the reality of it is we paid them whatever we paid them to design the middle school on that site. And a lot of that site plan is gonna be duplicated into the elementary school, right?
For the middle school?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there should be some real savings on the elementary school and the design, because a lot of that design is gonna overlap with what we're already paying them to do on the middle I school. mean, we were told there was efficiencies. But you're not seeing it. But there's not any. There's not even a penny. Right? But you're not seeing it. That's I mean, what I'm saying. They're not gonna do those.
We are also talking future dollars.
No,
Because
we're
I
hiring
don't
right
necessarily
now.
need it today. They're thinking the project in the future. So they're giving me a price today, but it is.
And it's
but they
good
can
in
do it like a
perpetuity.
year off.
But if I approve them, they can do it right now.
They can do it right now, but
They
we
don't have
also
to delay it.
have to consider that building codes may change. The town may adopt a different code between now and then, and it would involve going back and bringing that drawing set up to the current code. And again, as Liz says, I can only go based on what I have today, but thinking about the future, there is that possibility.
Yeah, they're gonna design it for you in today's dollars, even though it's down the road.
Right? I mean, that would be.
If
If
I ask them for a price down the road, we already know the code, they're gonna come back with the price of that time. What this does is, if they have to go back and do that, we have locked in at
I'm
this
just
cost.
saying, like, you add,
this
You
design
missing
fee.
this already?
add 10 to 12% over the next 2 years.
So that's the risk that they're taking on
Flow insurance.
by approving this now. Is that if they have to do any redesign for code changes, that will be on them.
That's on them.
Yes.
And, I mean.
And it makes
I
sense
know
to
it's-
design it while we're designing the middle school. It's another reason that I'd like to get it started. But I can't use it. I can't
Yeah.
submit it for a building permit until we're ready, till we get the funds approved, which is next year. You know, what we're looking at for selling bonds. So it will kind of get finished and sit there for a little while until we're able to get that funding approved and start. But it's advantageous to get the design done, to make sure we don't have any missed, you know, utility line sizes, and then a year from now, I'm digging up a 6-inch sewer line because it needed to be an 8. Those are all things that, you know, we need to know now if we're building 2 on that side.
And so to Richie's point, in the process, you can look at ways to maybe minimize the square feet, possibly.
Yes, we can.
Still effectively be the.
Yeah, we're gonna see that in the value engineering
That's not
coming up.
changing Corgan's price.
We're gonna see some of that on
That's
ES4.
gonna
I'm
change
thinking.
on
On ES4, now we don't have the square foot changes, like in the atrium, because we're too far down the road on that one. But on number 5, yes, that is something that could be done.
But it's 4 that we're still over budget currently, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So one way or another, they're gonna have to figure it out, or we can't build it at all.
You're either gonna have to.
So it's gonna be
do
interesting to see,
design.
whatever they do to 4, maybe that's how we find, you know, 4 is gonna force savings. It's just, that's just the way it is. So when they figure it out, we'll remind them that for 5.
But
You'll be sitting home.
I mean, they have to figure it out for 4.
But
Or we-
again, this is locking in the cost right here. Whereas if we wait, they're gonna increase their costs, no matter how much
Very
savings
possible.
we get.
That's always the hammer.
Any other questions for Jeff or Keith?
I wouldn't do these without Keith here anymore. You take the brunt.
It was not my intention, but I take the blame on that one. He's out of town, but I did forget.
Well, where's
to
Susan?
Ask Susan. to
Yeah,
stay.
there you
That's
go.
my fault.
Okay.
Yeah, where's Maria?
All
Okay.
my fault.
All right. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10K as presented.
I'd like to save my board members and make this painful. Make this painful motion.
All right, Dr. Bitter, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I may have to second it too.
I'll painfully second it.
Before I have to get out Robert's rules and read them.
You're right.
I'll give Dr. McDade the second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Okay, last time tonight. I won't ask for any more money.
At least you already explained this one to us.
Yeah.
Yes, so we are in the process of getting this well repaired next door, even while we're planning the new landscape, which we do have some temporary water connected to it, which is city water that's very expensive, so we'd like to be able to finish this well repair as quickly as possible. So to make sure that if we run into any unknowns as we're examining all these components, you know, as we've pulled them out of the ground, we're asking for this additional contingency of $20,000 not to exceed to cover any of those additional expenses that we may find as we're getting this evaluated and ready to go back in the ground.
We have talked about this a lot. I would like to entertain a motion.
It's not your call.
I know, that's my
If you were
discussion.
president.
That's my discussion.
Give him the gavel.
I'm gonna give a 10-second delay for the quorum right there. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10L as presented.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Westrom, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we get to talk
Mr.
about
Deffen.
Okay, this is a
Mr. Deffenbaugh, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Mr. Hogsworth.
This is a resolution that I'm asking you to approve against anything that takes money out of the public sector and puts it into the private sector. I trust that you've read this, but I can read it if you like, but I think all of you've had a chance to read it. Go to the second page, please, Josh. Just talks about, therefore be it resolved that the Argyle Board of Trustees calls on the Texas Legislature to reject any diversion of public dollars to private entities in the form of education savings accounts and similar voucher schemes.
Yeah. I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10M as presented.
Give it to him.
So moved.
Mr. Hawksworth, motion approved. Do I have a second?
Second.
John Bitter with second. Any further discussion?
I just have one quick question. Is this just pertaining to our district, or are we making a statement
No, this is
statewide? Or?
Statewide. This is legislative.
Statewide, a lot of people are doing it, but statewide, we're taking a position against vouchers and education savings accounts. We're taking a position against anything that takes money out of the public sector and puts it in the private sector.
Yes.
Yep. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Do it.
What time you got?
Oh, it's 10:30. It's real. It's meeting adjourned.
All right.